Imperial Preceptor's wife looked up at the sky. It was a very beautiful name. Jade Capital, a capital city made out of jade. The city where immortals lived. It had no smell of smoke or fire as well as no atmosphere of the mortal world. Once, Wanderer Zhen walked out of this mysterious little jade capital to stop me, but it was a pity he failed. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's gaze still held some unanswered questions. Before he died, he told me that I must go to Little Jade Capital, and that there would be things there that might change my thoughts. And now I'm here. In front of them, a beautiful paradise that seemed to have come from a fairy tale appeared faintly in the mist. Qin Mu's treasure ship stopped at Fan Prefecture. He brought Hu Linger out and bought some New Year's goods, filling up the entire ship. Fan Prefecture was still considered peaceful. The magistrate there was gathering divine arts practitioners to create all kinds of spirit weapons before boarding a flying ship to store away the cloud in the sky. There was already sunlight shining in some areas, and the snow was starting to melt. However, everything looked even colder. Fan Prefecture produced a lot of strong alcohol, so the people would normally drink it to fight against the cold. Even though it was very chilly, there were many villagers who would go up the mountain to chop down trees to keep themselves warm with the firewood. In addition, there was an inflation in prices and the goods were much more expensive than they were in the past. Qin Mu was wealthy, so he didn't feel any difference, but Hu Linger did a few calculations and told him, "Young master, the prices have multiplied." Qin Mu was slightly stunned and said, "This is sooner than I thought. Stabilizing the prices of goods is the job of Minister of Revenue. It's not our problem. As long as the dark cloud disperses and the imperial court sends disaster relief, there shouldn't be much trouble in the north. I'm just afraid that there will be people creating trouble on purpose." They didn't buy enough New Year's goods in Fan Prefecture, so the treasure ship stopped again at Lai Prefecture. The goods here had also inflated by several times, and there were quite a lot of merchants who started hoarding quite some stocks, waiting for the prices to inflate even more before selling them and making a huge profit. The magistrate of Lai Prefecture had already started to deal with these merchants, using severe punishments in these troubled times. Most of the merchants who had purposely hoarded their stocks were dragged away to be executed. After 2-3 days, Qin Mu's treasure ship reached Jing Prefecture, which wasn't far from Great Ruins. It was around 10,000 miles away and behind quite a lot of the dark cloud, which was like a piece of white paper which had many holes cut out from it. Sunshine shone down through these holes. This place was much farther, so it had more ground and fewer people. This was why chaos was starting to ensue as mountain bandits started to appear to rob big families. Many poor people could be seen frozen to death on the road, as they lay next to an extinguished fire pit. There were also some escapees pulling their families along in this world of ice and snow. They huddled tightly to one another as they stepped on the frozen river, and headed to the south in hopes of finding warmth. People didn't say anything when someone would fall back from time to time. These people would squat down to gather the tiniest bit of warmth, but once they squatted down, they would never get up again. The places where the river water accumulated had turned into a large ice mountain which gave off creaking sounds from time to time. Huge chunks of ice would then slide off the body, which looked very terrifying. Qin Mu saw that there were young people who were proficient in spells among the escapees that were taking care of the migrators. He stopped his ship on the frozen surface and made some inquiries. These young people were the disciples of Heavenly Devil Cult. "Tell them to stop looking for a warmer climate. Everywhere is frozen," Qin Mu said. "They won't listen." One of the disciples of Heavenly Devil Cult took off the face mask that was defending his face from the cold and revealed his dark red face. He then told their young cult master under the loud whistling of the cold wind, "Once these people stop, they will have no more hope. If they continue walking, there will still be hope in their hearts that they can find a warm place." Qin Mu was stunned. He took out some New Year's goods that could keep people warm, and handed them over to the disciples of Heavenly Devil Cult. This was to have them hand it out to the people in trouble. With the whole empire in ice and snow, the demons and monsters will also come out to look for food. You guys must be extra careful. He didn't stay long in Jing Prefecture. His treasure ship rose into the sky and headed to Great Ruins. The Winter and Eternal Peace Empire was outrageously cold, and with the passage of time it became colder and colder. Soon, numerous icicles hung on the treasure ship, and its speed decreased by a large margin, while the medicinal stone's depletion grew greater and greater. Every few thousand miles, Qin Mu would have to stop the ship and knock off the icicles. Only then could the speed of the ship increase once again. Hu Ling'er stood beside the pill furnace and sent medicinal stones into it from time to time. Qin Mu maintained the direction of the treasure ship, which was flying very low. He turned his vital qi into vermilion bird vital qi to surround his body with blazing fire so as to prevent himself from freezing up. The farther west he went, the more desolate it was. The more desolated it was, the more escapees there were, and the more people were frozen to death on the roads. Furthermore, desolated places had less divine arts practitioners, so there were more places without sun. These places were still covered by a thick dark cloud which made the weather even colder. The power of this snow disaster was much greater than Qin Mu had expected. The number of people dying also surpassed his estimations, and the cold was only becoming stronger. Suddenly, flames burst out from the sky as a huge snake slithered out from the clouds and spewed flames everywhere to force back the cold air. Demonic aura poured out from the huge snake as it slithered out from the clouds. Qin Mu's heart leaped, and he immediately pushed the treasure ship to rise, driving into the clouds. That huge snake looked around with a flirtatious-looking man standing on its head. This man then said in doubt, "I had clearly seen that brat ship just now, so why has it disappeared?" Sister Chiu released the insects. Countless insects flew out, revealing a woman standing on a cloud of insects. With a stretch of her finger, the insects could be seen flying off in all directions and tunneling into the cloud. Qin Mu's treasure ship shuttled through the cloud when it suddenly came face to face with a golden insect. When that insect saw the ship, it was also shocked and immediately halted. Qin Mu stabbed out with his finger, and his vital qi turned into sword qi and gave off a clink when he stabbed the body of the insect. However, this insect actually didn't die but turned larger instead, becoming almost 3 yards long, squeaking as it pounced at him. Qin Mu's vital qi sunk into Taoye's sack, and Junior Protector Sword flew out with a whiz, slicing the huge insect into two. At this moment a chuckle reached him. So the cult master of Heavenly Devil Cult is here. Qin Mu looked towards the source of the voice and saw the clouds behind him turning red. He immediately knew it was bad and shouted out, "Ling'er, turn up all 3 pill furnaces to the maximum." Boom! Huge flames burst forth and swept through the cloud, striking the bow of the treasure ship. Qin Mu immediately grabbed the helm of the ship so that he wouldn't be thrown off. The treasure ship swayed and almost fell off the sky from this divine art. The bronze beasts below the ship spewed fire at their maximum power, which increased the flying speed by a lot. In a few breaths' time, they flew out of the cloud and broke into fresh air. So cold! Icy wind bombarded Qin Mu in the face, and he shivered from the cold. The vermilion bird vital qi around his body was cooled, and icicles soon covered his face and hands. A huge bang rang out as the treasure ship surpassed the speed of sound. Hu Ling'er turned off the pill furnaces at the bottom of the ship, and the flames spewing out from the bronze beasts' mouths became shorter. She said, "Young master, we don't have many medicinal stones left." Qin Mu looked back and saw flames pouring out from the clouds. A huge snake flew out, having followed the brilliant gold swarm of insects which were rushing over here. However, their speed was much slower than that of the treasure ship. Even though the treasure ship's speed was slowed, they could still forget about catching up to it. Qin Mu calmed down and used his vital qi to wrap the ship before entering the hold. "How many medicinal stones do we have left?" Hu Ling'er was still busy pouring the medicinal stones into the pill furnace and could only pout at him. Qin Mu looked over and frowned slightly. He saw that almost all of the baskets were empty, besides 1.5. The medicinal stones used for Eternal Peace Empire's flying ships were all specially prepared and wrapped in craft paper. They just needed to throw in packets after packets in, and they would be able to maintain the flight of the flying ship. They had bought over a dozen baskets of medicinal stones, which should have been enough for them to fly to Great Ruins. However, because they kept stopping on the journey to melt the icicles, their stock has been depleted. Hu Ling'er said, "The weather is too cold. If we push the power of the pill furnace to its maximum, I reckon we won't be able to make it to Great Ruins." At this moment, violent tremors came from the treasure ship, and Qin Mu immediately walked out of the hold. Just as he popped his head out, he immediately closed the door of the hold. Clink, clink, clink. A series of concentrated attacks rang out as over a dozen flying swords stabbed into the hold of the ship. Qin Mu pushed open the hold of the ship and saw a sword pellet in the sky whirling about. The deck and hold of the ship were filled with flying swords which were trembling as they tried to pull themselves out to return to the sword pellet. Hack sword form. Qin Mu raised his hand and cut down. Junior Protector Sword hacked down, splitting the sword pellet. It exploded, and 100 broken flying swords fell from the sky. Superb sword, a voice said. And Qin Mu looked towards its source only to see a scholar running towards them through the sky 10,000 feet above them. His speed could make anyone's eyes go wide open. Heavenly Devil Cult's Cult Master Qin. Your identity is revealed and you have a bumpy road ahead of you. That young scholar leaped forward as though he was flying and divine arts would explode behind him from time to time, pushing his ahead again and again. His voice came over steadily as he smiled. There are many Dao friends waiting for you in front. Qin Mu's gaze flickered, and he stretched his hand out. Junior Protector Sword swept over with a cold light towards the young scholar. This person had loose sleeves which he used to welcome Junior Protector Sword. However, when his sleeves got pierced by the sword light, he couldn't help being astonished. He immediately flicked his fingers, and another divine art burst forth from his fingertips, turning into numerous sparrows that carried flames and collided with Junior Protector Sword. Qin Mu's sword finger whirled and turned into spiral sword form, shredding all of the sparrows and turning Junior Protector Sword bright red from the heat. However, the sword continued to spin and move around that young scholar, until he was left bare, with no clothing left. Superb sword skill. The young scholar immediately stopped and distanced himself from the treasure ship. Qin Mu felt that the range in which he could control his vital chi thread had reached its maximum, so he took out the sword sheath and gave it a shake in the wind. The sword sheath turned into a fish dragon and Junior Protector Sword came flying back like a shooting star, getting swallowed by the fish dragon. Amitabha, a name of Buddha, came from the sky, and Qin Mu hurriedly raised his head to take a look, coming face to face with the dazzling sunlight. Among the blazing sunlight, he could faintly see a huge Buddha shining with a brilliant golden color. It was descending from the sky straight towards the treasure ship. Qin Mu's vital chi burst forth and Junior Protector Sword flew out once again, transforming into drill sword form to stab at the huge Buddha descending from the sky. Vajra unbeatable! A shout came from midair, and Qin Mu instantly felt the movement of drill sword form becoming incomparably sluggish. Immense pressure came down on him and traveled through his body and onto the treasure ship. The bones in Qin Mu's body creaked from trying to withstand the pressure, and the treasure ship also gave off a creaking sound as well as sank down. This monk is an expert. Qin Mu grunted and his body trembled as he turned into the form of Mars Sovereign, who had a bull's head and stood on 2 dragons. Overlord Body 3 elixir techniques circulated according to Mars Fire Marquis True technique, and his vital chi increased exponentially to counter the pressure from above. The third bullseye in the heart of his brows opened up and shot a beam of fire upwards. A grunt came from above as the huge sun behind the head of the huge Buddha was pierced by the beam and shattered. The huge Buddha disappeared and turned into a young monk. The pressure on Qin Mu lessened by a lot, and the blazing fire around his body quickly flowed throughout the entire ship to melt away the icicles on it. The speed of the treasure ship increased exponentially as it entered the cloud layer and continued forward. In midair, the tall and sturdy monk held a 9-ringed monk staff while standing on one leg. Blood dripped from the other leg as he looked around. He had executed Vajra unbeatable technique earlier to take Qin Mu's drill sword form head-on, and the leg which had blocked the young man's sword move was mangled. Vajra unbeatable technique was not able to block drill sword form completely. Qin Mu had then turned into the form of Mars Sovereign, which managed to destroy the Buddha in which he had transformed by using Vajra unbeatable technique, forcing him to have no choice but to retreat. Over there, the eyes of the tall and sturdy monk lighted up, and he exerted his strength to sprint on the clouds. Every time he took a step forward, a white lotus would appear underneath his feet. They would then have a footing, which allowed him to burst forward with more power. Among the sea of the cloud, the treasure ship was faintly discernible. Qin Mu looked back and saw the monk chasing after quickly, his speed not slow in any way. These people who had ambushed him were all experts. There was no need to talk about Long Jiaonan and the woman with the surname Qiu, for they were both divine arts practitioners of 7 Stars realm. That scholar earlier and this young monk were no ordinary people as well. The scholar had his sword pellet destroyed by Qin Mu, Yet with no spirit weapon, he could still receive the attack of Junior Protector Sword barehanded. Even though his clothes were torn into pieces, he was not injured at all. Junior Protector Sword was the sword of a first-ranking official of the imperial court. Even though Qin Mu couldn't unleash its full power, the sword was still incomparably sharp. For that scholar to be able to protect his body, he was certainly very strong. This tall and sturdy monk was also ridiculously strong. One could see how solidly he had trained his body when he could take Qin Mu's drill sword form head-on and only suffer a hit to one foot. If Qin Mu hadn't realized that the sun behind his head was the crucial point of Vajra unbeatable technique, the treasure ship would have probably been crashed into the ground under the pressure. Even though these two people were not experts of Seven Stars realm, they were at the peak of Six Directions realm. The monk's leg might have been injured, but his speed was still very fast. He seemed to be slowly catching up to the treasure ship. Linger increased the speed. Hu Linger heard Qin Mu's order, and the speed of the treasure ship gradually increased, distancing them from the monk. When that monk saw the treasure ship going farther and farther away, he stopped chasing and exclaimed in admiration, "What a fast ship!" Qin Mu saw the situation and his heart sank. That monk and scholar had both stopped chasing him, which meant that they were sure that he would definitely be unable to escape their ambush. This told him one thing. There were more experts ahead of him. The treasure ship sailed forward for a moment before slowing down again. There weren't many medicinal stones left, so if the pill furnace continued burning at full power, the medicinal stones would be wasted and the ship wouldn't last till Great Ruins. As long as we fly out of the area covered by the cloud, we will be in the territory of Great Ruins. At that time we won't be far from the village. It will be just a little over 1,000 miles away. Qin Mu dispersed the form of Mars Sovereign and came to the bow of the ship to take a look. He still couldn't see an end to this sea of the cloud. The speed of the treasure ship now was still very fast, but the cold air bombarding him in the face was still bearable. At this moment, he saw a strange sight above the incomparably bright sea of the cloud. About a dozen miles away from him, colorful lights whirled continuously, shining in all directions. As the treasure ship got closer, Qin Mu saw that the source of these lights were pillars of ice. They were like huge ice swords, and when the sunlight shone on them, colorful lights would be refracted, making them look dazzling in the sea of the cloud. Every one of the ice swords was extremely thick and could only be hugged by over a dozen people. If these were used as swords, the only ones who could use them would be the incomparably huge giants. The ice swords seemed to be growing from the sea of the cloud, but the weird thing was they spun upright, refracting all kinds of lights from the sunlight. It was thus evident that these swords hadn't formed naturally. Qin Mu's expression changed slightly, and he steered hard to the right. The flying ship that was constructed out of metal tilted so much that the deck was almost vertical to the sea of the cloud. The ship slid at an astonishing arc and sailed past the pillars of ice. "Linger, pill furnaces to full power," Qin Mu shouted out, and Hu Linger's grumbles came from the hold of the ship. "Young master, you keep wanting me to turn on full power, but if we continue like this we really won't make it back to Great Ruins. There really aren't that many medicinal stones left." Qin Mu ignored her grumbles and turned the steering wheel back to let the treasure ship regain its balance. To his left, the huge ice sword suddenly moved. It looked like a giant with multiple arms had suddenly pulled them all out. The huge ice sword sliced through the air and gave out loud whistles as they slashed towards the ship. The speed of the treasure ship suddenly increased, and Qin Mu controlled it to avoid the ice swords that were slashing down. He looked back in a hurry and saw a woman in a blue dress standing among the huge ice swords. She was very beautiful but had an icy cold look as she walked among the ice swords. Her vital chi was water blue. She had used her vital chi to transform into over a dozen arms which continuously did stabbing movements. The huge ice swords would then follow and do the corresponding moves. Luckily, she can't catch up to me. Just as Qin Mu thought this, the speed of that woman in a blue dress suddenly increased as she sprinted over through the cloud. As she sprinted over frantically, her arms continued flailing about, and Qin Mu was stunned for a second. Suddenly, a huge boom came from the bottom of the ship, and it trembled violently as it tumbled in the sky, almost throwing him off. Qin Mu grabbed onto the helm of the ship for dear life, and when the treasure ship finally stopped, he saw the ice swords forming around as they popped out from the cloud's surface. The treasure ship had collided with one of the ice swords earlier. Even though that ice sword had been shattered into pieces, the treasure ship was also badly damaged. The ability of this woman is extremely high, and is even greater than that of the monk earlier. Her speed is also extremely fast. Qinmu controlled the treasure ship to avoid the ice swords, but with more of them growing from the sea of the cloud, avoiding them became a challenge. Qinmu shouted angrily, "Where's Dutian Devil King? What are you calling me for?" From the hold of the ship, Dutian Devil King walked out lazily with a look of, "Even if you kill me, I'm not going to help you." Qinmu saw him looking like this and vented his anger on him. "Do you want to kneel down and lick my toes again? If you don't, you better come and help. You think I'm scared of you?" Dutian Devil King sneered, but he still walked over. "I'm the ruler of Dutian after all. If you want me to save you, you better say please." Veins popped out on Qinmu's forehead. "Please." Dutian Devil was pleased and smiled. "There will also come the day when you will lower your head to me." He saw that Qinmu was about to blow up and immediately hid his smile. Devil language resonated from his mouth, growing more and more urgent. This 8-armed and 4-faced Devil King raised his arms high up in the air, and a black mirror appeared in the sky above the flying ship. A thick pillar of black light came shining down from the black mirror and onto the sea of the cloud. It looked like a basin of water had ink poured into it. The black fog swept in all directions, and in the blink of an eye black smoke covered a radius of over a dozen miles. It even covered the woman in a blue dress. In the black smoke, the woman grunted and felt her heart become disorderly. All kinds of impure thoughts poured out of her heart, and even a crystal-clear Tao heart could not withstand it and become corrupted. Her secrets of hatred parting heavenly sword separated passion and hatred from her emotions while suppressing all kinds of impure thoughts in her heart. Only then could her Tao heart become one with the sword heart, transparent and pure. Now her sword heart was contaminated by ink, and the devil in her heart acted up, filling her heart with all kinds of desires. What a pity! If I had enough time, I could train this ice mountain-like woman to lick my toes in just half a day's time. Dutian Devil King sighed. But a voice came from the devil fog as that tall and sturdy monk arrived. He used his 9-ringed monk staff without any explanation. Light burst forth from the staff and shone in all directions, splitting the devil fog apart and driving it away. When the monk drove the devil fog away, he suddenly found a hot figure falling into his arms, and his Buddhist heart almost fell into a mess. The person who had dropped into his arms was none other than the ice-cold woman of Passion Parting Palace. At this moment, her clothes were half unbuttoned and she was close to stripping herself naked. The monk immediately pushed her away and shouted, "Senior sister, you have fallen into the spell of the devil path. Are you not going to wake up?" That woman in the blue dress Yui was loudly shouted at with his Buddha voice, and the devil in her heart was dispersed. She instantly came back to her senses, and her face became beet red. She immediately covered herself up and said, "I'm embarrassed. I fell under the spells of the devil path and let them escape." Heavenly Devil Cult Master Qinmu is naturally proficient in spells of the devil path, to bewitch people's hearts and spoil their cultivation. The young monk trembled his monk staff, and the golden rings swayed, helping her suppress her heart devil. However, with this little monk here, he can't overdo it. Yui shook her head. His ship is too fast, it won't be easy to catch up to him if he escapes. There's no need to worry, senior sister Yu. He can't run away. Behind them, the young scholar caught up and said, "Poor logic sex teacher poor's disciple. Scholar Lan Yu greets senior brother Banshee and senior sister Yu. It's not just us who are hunting this heavenly devil cult master. Almost all the people with the same standing as us have made their move. They have laid down an inescapable net, so he won't be able to run away." Monk Banshee was about to say something when he saw a swarm of insects surging over. Among them was a huge red snake controlling demon gas and slithering over. Its speed was extremely fast, so it would reach them in no time. Its senior sister Chiu Yu from Three Wonder Castle and Dragon Rider Sect's young master Long Jiaonan. Scholar Lan Yu took a look and said, "Long Jiaonan's temper is queer and nasty. He likes men and chased me around for half a day when he saw that I was handsome. Let us not meet with him." At this moment, countless sword lights crisscrossed in the cloud far away, looking extremely dazzling. Monk Banshee's eyes lighted up and he said, I wonder which sword sex expert has intercepted Heavenly Devil Cult Master. Let us hurry over. Everyone immediately agreed. Ready, move out. When they saw a person jump on the cloud like an ape as he chased after the treasure ship. Duke Ape Sword Sex Expert. Young swordsman Yuan Shan. Lan Yu recognized that person and immediately shouted out. Senior brother Yuan Shan, it's impossible for Heavenly Devil Cult Master to escape. So why don't we encircle and annihilate him together? Yuan Shan stopped in his footsteps and waited for them to catch up. There's a treasure sword in the hands of Heavenly Devil Cult Master. So my sword pellet was destroyed by him. His ship is also weird, it's not made out of wood but metal. I stabbed it with thousands of swords yet I was still unable to destroy it. It's made out of black iron, Yui said. When it collided with Hatred Parting Ice Sword, it didn't shatter. But Hatred Parting Ice Sword shattered instead. An iron shell ship that's flying in the sky? Everyone looked at each other in dismay. How is such a heavy ship flying? Lan Yu took a look behind, and his expression changed slightly. Long Jiaonan is here. Let us leave quickly. Qin Mu shook Yuan Shan off his trail and immediately checked his surroundings. Thousands of holes had been opened up in his treasure ship by the flying swords, and it was leaking air in all places. Yuan Shan from Duke Ape Sword Sect was nimble, and both his movements and attacks were all very agile. His sword skill was also abnormally sharp, but luckily, the body of the ship was made of black iron, so it was pretty sturdy and managed to withstand the attack of this sword skill expert. However, since the air started to leak through the hold of the ship, it slowed down. Furthermore, the bow of the ship had collided with a huge ice sword which created a huge opening. When flying forward at full force, the wind poured into the body of the ship which slowed it down a lot. If I could stop, I could fix this in half a day, but these fellows won't give me half a day. Luckily, we are not far from great ruins now. Just as Qin Mu thought this, Hu Linger's voice came from below. Young master, the head of the bronze beast below the ship has been severed, is it important? Qin Mu was slightly stunned and said, It's not important, the landing will just be a little bumpy. The little fox popped her head out from the hold of the ship and asked with shiny eyes. How bumpy? Qin Mu asked her puzzlement. What are you asking this for? We are out of medicinal stones, she said loud and clear. Young master didn't notice? Our ship is gradually descending, so we'll soon fall from the sky. Even though the treasure ship was still flying forward, Qin Mu now noticed it beginning to descend into the sea of the cloud. He immediately decided, Linger, wake up that pig, it's time for him to contribute. Dutian Devil King went into a fury. Rascal, who are you calling a pig? I've clearly contributed. Hu Linger rolled her eyes at him. We aren't talking about you. Yet look at you admitting you're a pig. Young master was talking about Fatty Dragon. Fatty Dragon, wake up, stop sleeping. The ship is falling and young master said it's going to be a little bumpy. The dragon Qilin slowly got up and crawled out of the hold slowly. His belly was dragging against the floor and he grumbled. You were still calling me Big Dragon the past few days. Can he even fly? Qin Mu was a little worried. He quickly checked all the New Year's goods in the hold of the ship and stored them inside his Taotai sack. He then grabbed Dutian Devil King, thinking to stuff him in as well. However, the mouth of the Taotai sack wasn't big enough, so he could only fit in a leg. Qin Mu was thinking of dismantling the body of this devil god, but Dutian Devil King said angrily, What are you doing? Don't dismantle me, my consciousness now resides in this body, and if you dismantle it, my consciousness will be dismantled as well. Don't you know how to use this sack? Use your vital qi to light up the mouth of the Taotai. Qin Mu's eyes brightened up, and his vital qi poured out and lighted up the Taotai markings on the sack. Suddenly, the opening of the Taotai sack became larger and turned into the huge mouth of a Taotai. The mouth had a radius of 20 yards and could swallow Dutian Devil King whole. This is indeed easier to use. Qin Mu was surprised and delighted. He tied the sack to his waist and jumped on the dragon Qilin's back with Hu Linger before shouting, Abandon ship, let's go! Fire clouds grew under the feet of the dragon Qilin, and he rose from the ship, which sunk into the cloud and started to fall. The dragon Qilin said simple-mindedly, Cult Master Sister Linger, have you guys grow fatter? It's much harder to fly than before. The one that's fat is you, the little fox said angrily. Look at how fat you are becoming. The elders in young master's family are very fierce. If you continue to be so fat, you will be slaughtered for the New Year's." As she was saying that, the treasure ship crashed into a mountain and shattered into pieces. The 3 pill furnaces exploded and 3 loud explosions rang out. The shattered black iron and black copper shot off in random directions, and the violent impact destroyed part of the forest. A huge mushroom-shaped black smoke billowed out above the sky of the forest. Hu Linger jumped in shock and looked towards Qin Mu. "Young master, you said it would be slightly bumpy when descending?" "Yes." Qin Mu nodded and shouted out, "Fatty dragon, if you don't run faster, you'll be eaten for New Year's." The dragon Qilin gave a cold shudder and immediately began sprinting with all his might. The fire clouds under his feet grew in size and became even more intense, increasing his speed exponentially. However, after running for a dozen miles, he began panting without end. At this moment, dozens of mirrors appeared around the dragon Qilin. These mirrors had risen from the peak of the mountain below them. Each mirror had 8 corners which whizzed around them. The mirrors became larger in the wind and had a radius of 3 yards. Currently, they were 300 yards away from them. The dragon Qilin saw that the situation was bad and immediately descended. However, there was also a mirror coming from below which blocked his path. The dragon Qilin was about to run upwards when a mirror also came from above. A sword light flew out from the mountain and hit one of the mirrors with a clink. The mirror then reflected the sword light onto another mirror. With the mirrors shining the light from one to another, more sword lights came from the peak of the mountain below and got reflected. The sword lights grew in number, and in an instant, they became a net which was extremely concentrated. But from the peak of the mountain, there were even more sword lights flying over. What a weird formation skill! Qin Mu's hair stood up on end. This was a kind of sword formation which used mirrors. They reflected the sword light, concentrating so that there was nearly no sword light wasted. However, it is also easy to destroy this sword formation. I just need to destroy these mirrors. Qin Mu raised his hand, and Junior Protector Sword slashed towards a bright mirror. However, countless sword lights hit Junior Protector Sword and blew it away. The sword tumbled and fell into the forest below. His cultivation is much higher than me. I reckon he is a divine arts practitioner at 6 Directions Realm or 7 Stars Realm. Qin Mu's heart sank. He took out the sword sheath, ready to take back Junior Protector Sword. The area in which the dragon Qilin could move became smaller and smaller. He suddenly swayed his head and opened his mouth to roar. His roar was like 10,000 heavenly thunders exploding at the same time, shattering the mirrors in the sky all at once. Without the mirrors to rely on, the incomparably dense sword net instantly vanished. An astonished voice came from the mountain below. What a powerful brute, to have such a strong ability! When the dragon Qilin heard the word brute, he couldn't help becoming furious and spewed a ball of flames towards the peak of the mountain below. A sword light flew off to the side from there. It was a human and a sword as one that had avoided the dragon Qilin's attack. The peak of the mountain exploded and the clouds of fire that surged forth in all directions separated the human and sword, throwing them into the forest. However, that person was still not dead, for he rose into the sky again. A mirror hung horizontally in front of him, and once a light shone out from within it, a pillar-like sword light shot out. The dragon Qilin ran away, leaving the sword light behind himself. However, that sword light was faster than the dragon Qilin and managed to catch up to him. The dragon Qilin shook his body, growing larger in size as he revealed his true form. He turned into a behemoth that was over 120 yards long, and with a sweep of his incomparably huge tail, the sword light was shattered into pieces. The swordsman was stunned for a moment, then cried out, "What a huge brute!" The dragon Qilin turned his head back. He spewed a beam of blazing fires out. That swordsman knew that it was anything but good, and immediately rose into the cloud above to dodge this attack. However, he soon saw the brilliant beam slicing apart the cloud with its intense heat. A miserable shriek came from the sky, but they didn't know if the swordsman was still alive or not. Sunlight then came scattering down from the hole in the thick cloud. "Fatty dragon is so awesome," Hu Linger praised. Qin Mu looked at the cloud which was sliced apart and had a worried expression. Among those that had chased after them just now, the ones with the highest cultivation were Long Jiaonan and the woman with the ice-cold expression from Passion Parting Palace. They were both of 7 stars realm. The next came the monk, the scholar, and the rest whose power was between 6 directions realm and 7 stars realm. These people were just the vanguard, and their task was to test if there were any experts around Qin. He was the cult master of Heavenly Devil cult after all, so there would definitely be guardians or other strong existences around him. Now the Dragon Qilin had been found out by them. The power of this blow from the Dragon Qilin was not something that Long Jiaonan and the rest could handle. This meant that the stronger existences would now have to make a move. Qin continued to flee for life, not stopping to fight Long Jiaonan and the rest because he wanted the hidden experts not to be able to guess if there were any experts accompanying him. If they couldn't guess, they could only keep letting Long Jiaonan and the rest test him, giving him the chance to enter Great Ruins. That would be the safest for him. Now that the Dragon Qilin had made a move, this chance was lost. The experts of Heavenly Devil cult were ordered by him to send disaster relief, so there was no guardian accompanying him. The distance from here to Great Ruins is already less than 1,000 miles. Let's run. Qin let out a deep breath and said in a low voice, "The closer we are to Great Ruins, the safer it'll be." The Dragon Qilin had an enormous stature, and his speed greatly increased from before. Even though he still had a huge tummy and panted heavily, he ran like flickering light and passing shadows. In no time, this behemoth had run over 100 miles under the cloud without meeting anyone. Suddenly, Qin said, "Stop and land at the mountain below." The Dragon Qilin stopped and shrunk his body, landing among the mountains below. He came to a snow-covered valley, where snow was 3 yards deep. The mountain range around was all pure white and looked very desolate. There were no buildings in sight. Blazing flames surrounded Qin body and melted the snow in the valley, letting him see the skeletons that covered the bottom. This place was probably an ancient battlefield where a bloodbath had once occurred. He had used his green heaven's eyes to take a look around and saw the overflowing grudge from this place, which was why he chose to stop here. Let's meet these existences that are chasing me, the Heavenly Devil cult master, right here and see how much stronger they are. Qin hardened his heart, and his vital qi burst forth. Countless bones piled up one onto another, and soon formed 4 white bone altars. He took out the 4 devil god sculptures which he had hid inside Taotai's sack, and placed them on the 4 altars. He then took out the talisman treasure of Great Mountain Sect and started to cast his spell, Ghost Transferring God Dispatching Runes Command of Great Mountain Sect. These 4 sculptures were sculptures of Dutian's devil gods. Dutian Devil King had made him carve out 5 devil god sculptures to scheme against those devil gods that weren't willing to follow his orders. However, Qin had only summoned 1 of them, so he still had 4 of the devil god sculptures. "Rascal, if you summoned my true body, I could help you kill all of them," Dutian Devil King said in a fierce voice from the Taotai sack. Qin ignored him, and cryptic devil language rang out. The talisman treasure swirled as more and more runes on the first devil god sculpture lighted up. Qin gradually built a connection with a devil god from the other world, and with himself as the bridge, he contacted the other in Dutian. "You're truly from the devil path, hiding here to summon devils," an ancient voice stated. "You guys frequently say that you aren't a devil cult, so tell me, how is what you are doing now different from what a devil would do?" An old Taoist walked over with a horsetail whisk in his hand and a sword on his back. Qin wasn't affected by his words and continued to summon his devil. Suddenly, blood light burst forth and shone on this valley that was covered by snow like it was dyed with blood. That blood light overflowed into the sky, and the crackling sparks turned into coiling lightning which burst forth in all directions. The lightning struck the walls around the valley and melted the heavy snow. Even the rocks were melted and turned into lava which flowed down the walls. The lightning that coiled around the blood light formed a net which crackled as it moved. A terrifying devil energy came bombarding from the other world and struck the sculpture which was on the altar. The wooden sculpture instantly ruptured and swelled, becoming taller and taller while its aura grew more and more terrifying. Dutian Devil King's angry and anxious voice came from the Taotai sack on Qin waist. "Rascal, you had held back when summoning Kaiahi Devil God, didn't you? Your summoning of the Disaster Devil God this time is much more powerful." He wronged Qin this time. Even though Qin had known much of the devil language when he was summoning Kaiahi Devil God in Imperial College, he had not mastered it completely. After the days that had passed by, He had digested the devil language he had learned when he had made the Pact of Earth count with Dutian Devil King. As he mastered more of the devil language, the devil god he summoned would naturally be stronger. He hadn't been holding back the previous time. The old Taoist saw this terrifying sight and lost his earlier composure. His expression changed slightly, and he sent out the horsetail whisk. Go! The horsetail whisk became longer in the wind, and each and every hair turned into a fine sword that was dozens of yards long in an instant. The hair spread out in midair and looked like a swirling white umbrella from afar. However, it was countless times larger. The danger posed by the horsetail whisk was extremely high. Each hair had become a fine sword, and the finer they were, the harder to defend against they were. The speed of the horsetail whisk was extremely fast, and it sliced apart countless bolts of lightning. The old man instantly appeared in the sky above the valley and struck at the terrifying devil energy that was coming from the other world. Qin Mu felt the devil summoning getting intercepted and shouted out. The dragon Qilin rose into the air and gave an angry roar. His roar rushed towards the horsetail whisk and messed up its hairs. The devil energy which had gotten intercepted flowed through once again, and continued to pour over. When the old Taoist saw the dragon Qilin, he was delighted and sneered. Hairy brute, if you help a villain do evil, a calamity will befall you, even if you do it unaware. I see you are handsome, so if you are willing to submit to me and be my mount for 100 years, I'll allow you to wash away your sins. Otherwise, it'll be hard for you to keep your cultivation from turning into ashes. The dragon Qilin blew up. He snarled, "Brute!" Flames accumulated in his open mouth and turned into a beam that shot towards the old Taoist. That old Taoist's body trembled, and his vital qi burst forth to form a tortoise-backed god behind him that was 30 yards tall. The horsetail whisk in his hand was a huge snow-white snake, and his other hand stretched out to block the beam that the dragon Qilin had spewed out. The beam was sent to the side by the huge hand, and the overflowing flames scorched the walls of the valley red. Celestial being? Qin Mu's heart sank. The four hooves of the dragon Qilin moved up and down, and fire clouds grew under his hooves as he sprinted towards the old Taoist. Suddenly, the horsetail whisk in the air swept downwards, and the hair coiled around the four hooves of the dragon Qilin, tying them down tightly. The old Taoist was very delighted and smiled. "Little brute, aren't you going to submit? Do you want to be killed?" At this moment, Qin Mu patted his Taotai sack, and the mouth of it grew bigger. An 8-armed and 4-faced devil god mechanism leaped out, and on his 8 arms were 8 treasures. There was a guqin, a bead, a bow, an arrow, a sarira, a broken sword, a devil-subduing pestle, and 1,000 banners pagoda. These were the treasure which Qin Mu had stolen from Roland's golden palace. When Qin Mu had placed Dutian Devil King, who was worried about not having a suitable weapon, into the Taotai sack, the latter swiftly grabbed the treasures to hold onto. Now that he was released, he naturally understood what Qin Mu wanted of him: to assist him in this fight. Dutian Devil King was perfectly clear of what he should do next. If he stayed beside Qin Mu might still leave him alive. However, if the kid was killed, he would definitely die too if he landed in the hands of the old Taoist. For the migration plan of the people in Dutian, he had to fight this old Taoist as if his life depended on it. The treasures Qin Mu had stolen from Roland's golden palace were all treasures on the level of sect legacy treasures, and had strong power. As the biggest sacred ground beyond the Great Wall, the treasures that could be kept by Roland's golden palace were naturally no small matter. However, Qin Mu had no time to cultivate with these treasures. Once Dutian Devil King took hold of them, his murderous nature surfaced, and his 4 faces all looked fierce as he thought to himself, "If I catch this brat off guard and kill him, I'll be free. However, if I think about it, this body of steel is filled with traps created by the brat. If I killed him and the traps got activated, I would be trapped inside this devil god sculpture and be unable to move. Let me get rid of this little old Taoist first." The sound of guqin rang out, and waves of devil voice burst forth. The soul of the old Taoist got bombarded, and he felt his soul stirring as the heart devil in his Tao heart rose up. He immediately gave a shout and did a cleansing madra to suppress them. The tortoise-backed god apparition raised its hand, and the white snake horsetail whisk rose. Huge waves suddenly overflowed into the sky and crashed down against Dutian Devil King. The 4 faces of Dutian Devil King shouted ferociously, and the power of the 8 treasures in his hands burst forth, smacking the huge waves that were crashing down on him. An earth-shattering bang rang out, and Dutian Devil King flew backward, crashing hard into a cliff. The white snake Horsetail Whisk opened its mouth wide and smashed against his body, nailing him on the mountain. Little Taoist, you have no idea how terrifying the ruler of Dutian is. You have angered me. The cliff exploded, and Dutian Devil King flew out from the shattered mountain. He shook the 1,000 Banners Pagoda, and the 1,000 banners fluttered, turning into a 3,000 yards pagoda which pressed down on the old Taoist. The old man sneered, and the god behind him said a madra, smacking both Dutian Devil King and the 1,000 Banners Pagoda off the sky and onto the floor motionless. Right at this moment, the intense blood light and the devil energy in the air suddenly vanished. On the white bone altar, the bare-headed devil god sculpture turned into a 300 yards tall devil god, which gave off a world-shaking bellow. Weaklings of this lowly world, prepare to welcome the wrath of great devil god Xiongpi. Old man Dutian. Devil god Xiongpi looked at Dutian Devil King who was under his feet and couldn't help laughing out loud. Old man Dutian. For the supreme ruler of Dutian to actually be suppressed to such a state. Our Dutian has become what it is today because of a ruler as useless as you. Such a trash like you should just give up the position of the Devil King. Dutian Devil King was ashamed and angry. He was about to get up when great devil god Xiongpi looked at him from above and stepped down on him with a chuckle. You also have this day, tyrant. Devil summoner, what do you plan on sacrificing to me for summoning me out? Him. Qin Mu pointed at that old Taoist and great devil god Xiongpi sent a punch towards the old Taoist. The tortoise-backed god apparition behind him raised its hand to block, and a dull boom rang out. Qin Mu was left muddle-headed by the aftermath while the old Taoist got blown backward and smashed into the cliff on the opposite side. Great devil Xiongpi leaped and punched the body of the old Taoist with a malicious smile. Delicious weakling, eh? A sword light showed up behind him and stabbed his heart from the back. The sword went deep enough to come out on the other side, its tip visible on the devil's chest. It had been the old Taoist who had used a hidden treasure sword to succeed in hitting him. Not bad. However, this body isn't what you think it is. Great devil god Xiongpi smiled maliciously and raised his fist to smash the cliff. This body is merely a devil god sculpture, so even if you behead me, you won't be able to do anything to me. Is that so? A voice suddenly came from behind, and great devil god Xiongpi immediately turned his head back. A sword light circled around his neck 3 times, and his huge head instantly fell from his neck. Taoist Kuyi, this stupid disciple has arrived late. The sword light flew up and landed on top of a cliff where stood a scholar whose green clothes fluttered in the air. His gaze landed on the headless body of great devil god Xiongpi before moving over to Qin Mu's body, whom he greeted respectfully. Poor logic sex subordinate of teacher Poor Lu Wenshu pays respect to Heavenly Devil Cult Master. Heavenly Devil Cult's master is a senior, so it isn't overboard for a junior to make a move on the senior. Is that right? Great devil god Xiongpi's head flew up and landed back on his neck as he smiled. Another everyman has appeared. Qin Mu shook his head with a calm expression. Teacher Poor is of the same generation as me, so him only sending you and not making a move himself is already underestimating me. Lu Wenshu said leisurely. It's not that teacher doesn't want to personally meet Heavenly Devil Cult's master. He just has something else to attend to save all the people in the world. To assassinate the emperor? Qin Mu asked. Imperial Preceptor gave Old Rulai the face to let him save Teacher Poor and the rest. Old Rulai also gave his word that Teacher Poor will become a monk and never dabble in the worldly affairs anymore. Why has he gone back on his words? Lu Wenshu's expression became stiff. Then he suddenly laughed. For the lives of the people in the world, why can't he go back on his words? Qin Mu turned his head back to have a look and saw a Taoist nun coming from the other mountain. She was wearing a white Taoist robe, and a plum blossom was embroidered in front of her chest. Wanderer Qing Yu of Spirit Bloom Palace greets Heavenly Devil Cult Master, she said. Qin Mu smiled. Why does a wanderer have to greet? That Taoist nun said solemnly. Even though you're an enemy, etiquette mustn't be lost. Little cult master of Heavenly Devil Cult, you might resent us for bullying the weak, but you are the cult master of the #1 sacred ground of the Devil Path, after all. Your seniority is higher than ours, so this cannot be really considered as bullying the weak. Qin gave a slight smile and said, not a problem, not a problem. Who else wants to kill me? I'm here to kill you. A magic cloud floated over and an arhat landed on top of a mountain. Prayer beads hung on both his hands, and each one bead was as big as a human head. He put his palms together and said, Heavenly Devil Cult Master has an extremely high position, so little monk is here to enlighten you and subdue the devil. May Heavenly Devil Cult Master give your guidance. The cult master of the number 1 sacred ground in the devil path shouldn't fear an additional person such as me, right? Another person came to the peak of another mountain wearing tattered clothes which were filled with holes. However, he was high-spirited and laughed loudly with heroism reaching the clouds. I'm a subordinate of Beggar Sex Master Chi Dayo. Lotus Hall Master Luo Sampo greets Heavenly Devil Cult Master. I'm here to claim the Cult Master's life. That's right, Cult Master seems to have a little fox demon that has offended Sect Master Chi, and Sect Master Chi said that she must be killed. Hu Linger immediately hid behind Qin Mu, only her head popping out secretly. Your Sect Master Chi is really petty, he's impotent. Luo Sampo pointed at her and smiled. That's the little fox. Everyone, for me to be able to encircle and annihilate Heavenly Devil Cult Master with all those in the righteous path of the martial world is truly a lucky chance, and also a joyous event. Let us call this convention of ours the Assembly to Slaughter Devils and Defend Tao. Assembly to Slaughter Devils and Defend Tao? Great name. In the mountain, Taoist Kuyi crawled up and spat out a mouthful of blood. He then sat down on the cliff to regain his breath. If we can manage to annihilate Heavenly Devil Cult Master and return peace to the world, our investment will be worth it. Everyone for the righteous path. On the peak of the mountains around him, emotions surged forth to the bosoms of all the great experts of Celestial Being Realm, and they shouted heroically in unison, for the righteous path of this world. Kill! The 5 great experts were full of vigor, and their vital chi burst forth. The apparitions of gods appeared behind them, and each of them unleashed their strongest move as they unleashed their attacks towards the valley. Right at this moment, Great Devil God Xiongpi roared angrily, and all the energy in his body exploded. Boundless Heavenly Devil! Qin Mu immediately brought Hu Linger to hide behind the dragon Qilin as a terrifying quake shook the valley and loosened mountain rocks, resulting in them falling from the sky and shattering into powder. Even with the dragon Qilin blocking most of the sight, Qin Mu and Hu Linger still felt an unimaginable pressure on them. Their bones creaked from it. All the great experts of Celestial Being Realm vomited blood and fell backward. It was unknown whether they were still alive or not. Qin Mu popped his head out from the back of the dragon Qilin and saw Great Devil God Xiongpi standing alone majestically. Hu Linger was surprised and delighted. Xiongpi is so powerful. Suddenly, Great Devil God Xiongpi's body started to crumble and break, inch by inch. They could hear the Great Devil God muttering, "The energy is depleted. It's a pity I can't harvest these sacrifices, but luckily I managed to see how pathetic Duqian Devil King is. Devil Summoner, I'm off." When he was done, his body exploded with a bang as his consciousness returned to the other world. Hu Linger was stunned when they heard the coughing of Luo Sampo and the rest coming from the valley. The experts hadn't been killed by Great Devil God Xiongpi. "Young Master." Hu Linger turned her head and looked at Qin Mu. "It's fine." Qin Mu rose and patted off the dust on his body. He pulled up Duqian Devil King, who was crushed onto the ground, and threw him onto the dragon Qilin's back. The youth was in high spirits as he put the 3 other altars into his sack and shouted, "Fatty dragon, run!" Fire clouds grew under the dragon Qilin's feet as he rose into the sky and ran out of the valley. Wanderer Qing Yu sat down and raised his hand to smack forward. Lightning surged forth instantly, and countless bolts of lightning coiled in the air like a green dragon which rushed towards the dragon Qilin. Wanderer Qing Yu suddenly vomited blood, and his palm trembled. The thunder and palm missed its target and blew a huge hole in the mountain in front of the dragon Qilin. Qin Mu was shocked. The power from the divine arts of these existences of the celestial being realm was astonishing despite them being injured. If his group got hit, they would definitely die miserably. Lu Wensher, Arhat Pushan, and the rest stood up shakily, forced to vomit blood. They couldn't help feeling a lingering fear as they had all underestimated the great devil god Xiongpi that Qin Mu had summoned, which resulted in all of them being severely injured in one blow. If Taoist Kuyi had not interfered with Qin Mu's summoning once, the great devil god Xiongpi would actually have been even stronger. If that happens, at that time all of them would not have been enough to kill it. Shall we give chase? Lu Wenshu asked in a low voice. At this moment, Taoist Kuyi sat in the lotus position. With his breath shallow, he smiled miserably. This old Taoist will not be able to subdue devils with fellow Tao friends. My life force has been broken by that devil. This mortal flesh is no longer useful. Everyone was sorrowful. Taoist Kuyi chanted softly. Life is but a withered leaf falling gently on the yellow springs at its end. Fellow Tao friends, you must execute that heavenly devil cult master. I want to see him on the road to the underworld. I shall go first. When he was done, he departed this life. Lu Wenshu cried out loudly. Take care, Tao friend. We will definitely send this devil to meet you. Arhat Pushan sighed deeply, with evident disappointment and frustration. Placing his palms together, he said respectfully, This life is but a mortal flesh, which you should shed to meet Rulai. Godspeed, Tao friend. Godspeed, Wanderer Qingyu said while shedding tears. Luo Sampo said, That dragon Qilin's footsteps are very fast. We need to catch up soon. Otherwise, it will be bad if he will summon a second devil god. Lu Wenshu's murderous spirit was awakened. He won't have the chance. There are even stronger existences waiting on the road ahead. Even though he had said so, everyone suppressed their injuries and consumed spirit pills to heal them somewhat as they rushed in Qin Mu's direction. Qin Mu took out a white bone altar and placed it on the dragon Qilin's back as he tried to summon the second devil god. However, since the dragon Qilin was sprinting, the journey was slightly bumpy, and it was easy for the talisman treasure to shine on the wrong rune on the devil god sculpture. If a rune was wrong, everything he did would be wasted, so he could only give up. Qin Mu checked, but there were no injuries on his body. Hu Linger was also not injured. The dragon Qilin had thick skin and flesh as well as dragon scales to protect him, so he hadn't gotten hurt either. Only Dutian Devil King was a little deformed from the beating. Qin Mu used vermilion bird vital qi to scorch the body red hot before adjusting the deformed limbs. Dutian Devil King was so ashamed that he kept silent. Being despised by great devil god Xiongpi and getting stepped on by him was a great humiliation. Qin Mu distinguished the terrain and took out Eternal Peace's geographical map for comparison. He let out a sigh of relief and said, This place is already close to great ruins. With Dragon Qilin's leg power, I reckon we can make it to the border in another half a day. However, it'll be impossible to go past Secret Waters Pass. After getting chased, the route had already deviated away from Secret Waters Pass. He was also very far from Eternal Border Pass. What I can do now is to take the passage which my cult has used for smuggling. Qin Mu thought for a moment. There was a god-broken mountain range between Great Ruins and Eternal Peace. Mysterious pearl crossbows were lying all over that mountain range, and anyone who tried to cross its borders would be shot down. Mysterious pearl crossbows operated automatically, and were rumored to have been created under the decree of a god. Anyone who crossed God-broken mountain range, no matter if they went through the mountain or over it, they would be shot to death. Heavenly Devil Cult had once run smuggling operations and had a passageway through God-broken mountain range which passed by Lonely Mountain Ridge Canyon, allowing one to go to and fro from Great Ruins and Eternal Peace. There were 2 mysterious pearl crossbows there that had been destroyed by Heavenly Devil Cult. However, the owner of Border Dragon City had said that the passage had been abandoned for many years. Lonely Mountain Ridge Canyon was the only way Qin Mu could enter Great Ruins. The pursuers shouldn't know about this passage. Qin Mu roused his spirit and suddenly burst out laughing. It's so hard to just go home for New Year's. It's almost like there's a whole army charging at me. He had learned martial arts from the people in the village and also inherited their positive attitude. Even though he had met countless ambushed on the way, he still maintained a positive attitude. Affected by his emotions, the Dragon Qilin and Hu Linger were also more relaxed. The sky turned dimmer in time, and the surroundings became even more desolate. After traveling for quite a long time, not a village could be seen. Barging into Great Ruins at night is definitely a sure death path. I have to wait for morning to come. They got closer and closer to Great Ruins. From their current position, They could already see the black figure of God Broken Mountain Range, which was like a high wall stretching from the earth to the heaven in front of them. The God Broken Mountain Range, which stretched for God only knows how many thousands of miles, was incomparably difficult to cross even without mysterious pearl crossbows. Qin Mu was thinking of finding a place to settle when the light of a lamp caught his attention below. It was a village which had lighted up their lamps when night fell. "Young master, be careful of a trap," Dutian Devil King sneered. "We can't see a village in a radius of 1,000 miles, yet one popped out here of all places. Naturally, it's a trap," Qin Mu said. "Fatty dragon, continue walking, ignore it." The dragon Qilan stepped on the fire clouds and continued to head towards God Broken Mountain Range. After a dozen miles, another light came from a village near the border. The lamplight there was dim, and there were only a dozen houses. The arrangement of the houses and the position of the light given by the oil lamp was exactly the same as that small village's earlier. Qin Mu's pupil contracted slightly, and he said solemnly, "Continue walking." The dragon Qilan continued forward and saw that village after walking another dozen miles. The houses, lights, and all the arrangements were exactly the same, without any changes. The dragon Qilan felt something was wrong and ran forward with all its might. After traveling hundreds of miles, they met over a dozen such villages, and all their arrangements were the exact same. The God Broken Mountain Range also seemed as far as before. After sprinting a few hundred miles forward, they should have already reached the bottom of the mountains by now, but the distance between them never seemed to change. "This person is not ordinary, he can fold the space." Dutian Devil King was completely disheartened. "Rascal, you can't escape. We'll enter the village," Qin Mu said ruthlessly. The dragon Qilan and Hu Linger jumped in fright. Truly angry, Qin Mu growled, "I shall kill whoever dares to block my way home for New Year's. Enter the village." The dragon Qilan descended, and his body shrank, returning back to normal. Qin Mu jumped off the dragon Qilan's back while Hu Linger hung around his neck like a scarf made from fox skin. Dutian Devil King followed behind him and looked around with his four faces cautiously. Qin Mu walked towards the village entrance and saw that this village was very normal. There were flagpoles at the entrance, and under them were the stone stumps for horses. The village was very serene, with a dog barking at them, looking very fierce with its snarling teeth. The fox on Qin Mu's neck secretly opened her eyes and scared the dog. The wooden door opened up and an elder walked out while raising an oil lamp. The dog came to the back of the elder and grew courageous again, starting to bark once more. Qin Mu had a gentle expression and greeted the other. "I was passing by when I saw your treasured land. The sky is turning dark and there's no place for me to rest around here. So heaven took pity on me by letting me meet Elder. Could Elder accommodate us by giving us a place to rest? Heavenly Devil Cult Master is too courteous." That elder had long and narrow facial features with his white eyebrows drooping lowly. "The village is very small, but we have many empty guest rooms. If Cult Master doesn't despise it, he can find a house to rest in." The fox fur on Qin Mu's neck exploded as it trembled uncontrollably. Dutian Devil King and the Dragon Qilan were astonished. This white-eyebrowed elder didn't even bother to cover anything and referred to Qin Mu as Heavenly Devil Cult Master. It was obvious he had no intention to hide and disdained covering up the truth. Their act of going in circles on the spot was probably the doing of this elder. Qin Mu said his thanks and asked, "Elder, how many people are in this village?" The white-eyebrowed elder said, "Currently there's only a human and a dog. However, I have hung lamps in each and every one of the rooms. In a bit, the villagers will hurry over, and when that time comes, there will probably be a grand celebration which will be quite noisy. Heavenly Devil Cult Master, please don't turn your back away. All of us are just coolies, people who sell our lives for labor and don't know any etiquette. May Heavenly Devil Cult Master pardon us." "Not a problem, not a problem." Qin Mu bid farewell to the white-eyebrowed elder and came to the center of the village. He chose the biggest courtyard and said, "Elder, please return. We will stay here." The white-eyebrowed elder beamed at him. "Have a good night, Heavenly Devil Cult Master. Thanks for your blessing." Qin Mu pushed open the door, and the smile on his face immediately vanished. He said quickly, "Don't speak and enter the main room to sleep. No one shall open their eyes." The Dragon Qilan and Hu Linger didn't understand what he meant. Dutian Devil King said. This old thing has ill intentions. Qin Mu made a convenient pluck, and Dutian Devil King became motionless. Qin Mu opened the door to the main room and threw the machine on the floor and shut all of its 12 eyes. The dragon Qilin squeezed in while breaking the wooden door, both of whom collapsed to the ground. The dragon Qilin wanted to say something, but Qin Mu did a shush action and signaled for him to close his eyes. Hu Linger got down from Qin Mu's neck and climbed onto the dragon Qilin's back to shut her eyes. Qin Mu opened up his Taotai sack and took out a scroll. He closed his eyes and nailed a painting on the wall so it faced the entrance. Grandpa Cripple said that this painting is a village chief in his early years, and it can drive away evil. Let's see if Grandpa Cripple lied to me or not. He lay down and turned his body to the entrance, his eyes staring wide open. All of the surroundings were silent. After a while, the sound of footsteps came from outside, and he heard a somewhat familiar voice which seemed to belong to Lu Wenshu. Senior Qing Shan lighted the lamps in the night to summon us over. So could it be that you have found Heavenly Devil Cult Master? A woman said. We are ashamed to say that we weren't able to kill him even after all the chasing, and Taoist Kuyi even suffered under his treacherous hands, dying by a devil god he had summoned. This seemed to be the voice of Wanderer Qingyu. The white-eyebrowed elder spoke next. Heavenly Devil Cult Master is sleeping in the village. Senior Qing Shan is still the best. Let me go and kill him right now. There's no hurry. Let us wait for our other fellow practitioners before taking his life and celebrating this great victory. A moment passed and there was another dozen footsteps. When everyone heard that Heavenly Devil Cult Master was in the village, they couldn't resist cheering and laughing as the weight lifted off their shoulders. There were sounds of people drinking outside, with the lamps brightly lit all around them. It was obvious that these strong practitioners were celebrating. Even though Heavenly Devil Cult Master's abilities aren't strong, he has many tricks up his sleeves and is truly difficult to deal with. I'm ashamed to say it, but we were injured and almost killed by the devil god he had summoned. Getting rid of this devil today will be considered as returning justice to the world. Come, cheers. Senior brother Feng Qiwu is here? Come, come. Let us celebrate ridding the world of this devil. The lights outside were very bright, and the shadow of the window frames in Qin Mu's house flickered non-stop. The weather was very cold, and Qin Mu could see Hu Linger shivering, so he stretched his hand to place it on her little tummy. Hu Linger turned her head back, and Qin Mu hurriedly stretched out 2 fingers to cover her eyelids. Outside, many experts who had intercepted Qin Mu were rushed in one after another from all places, and the laughter grew louder as they exchanged cups of wine and celebrated. After some time they heard the white-eyebrowed elder say with a laugh, Everyone, the night is late. It's time to send Heavenly Devil Cult Master on his way. Hu Linger trembled as she heard the door to the courtyard creaking open. However, she didn't dare to open her eyes. Lu Wenshu walked into the courtyard first, smiling. Heavenly Devil Cult Master is actually asleep, deep asleep. Suddenly, his head slid off his neck without any warning, and his corpse collapsed to the ground. A great expert of Celestial Being Realm had died just like this. There's an expert in the courtyard. Brother Lu was killed. Commotion broke out outside the courtyard, and a boom was heard as the strong practitioners broke through the wall of the courtyard and barged in. Flames blazed around their bodies, and behind them were the apparitions of gods with aura overflowing into the sky. Just as they landed on the ground, their heads suddenly slid off their necks. Even though they all had great abilities, they still died inexplicably. It was as if there was a formless god swinging his formless sword in this courtyard, severing the heads of whoever dared to barge in. In the main room, Hu Linger was sprawled on the dragon Qilin's back. From that position, she sneakily opened her eyes to see the heads rolling off. It was a queer sight. There was clearly no enemy, but when the strong practitioners of Celestial Being Realm stepped into the courtyard, they would immediately die an unnatural death. The others reacted as if they had met a great enemy. A Celestial Being Realm practitioner gave a shout, and his sword chi covered his entire body like frost as he entered the courtyard. With a wary gaze, he swept his eyes everywhere. His sword skill was intricate, and there were countless sword lights swimming around his body like incomparably fine fishes. The method he had taken was a passive one to defend oneself. With thousands of fine sword fishes which contained his incomparably dense cultivation swimming around him, He could have them immediately counterattack when met with hostility and deliver a killing blow. He had no choice but to do this since the enemy came and went without leaving any traces or shadow, so he couldn't see where the enemy was exactly and how he had made his move. With so many strong practitioners of Celestial Being Realm having lost their lives here, it was just too strange. He didn't meet any danger right away, but he didn't dare to let his guard down as he slowly walked towards the main room that Qin Mu and the rest were sleeping in. There he saw a painting hanging in the room. Qin Mu had lighted up a candle in front of this painting, lighting it up. On the painting was the back of a middle-aged man with a sword strapped to it. The middle-aged man's face was slightly tilted as if he was using the corner of his eye to glance at the painter. That corner of the eye revealed an astonishingly murderous intent. This lithe glance was captured by the painter who turned it into a painting. Even though there was only the middle-aged man in the picture, it gave people the feeling that there was an endless amount of information which wasn't drawn, and it lay hidden in the blank spaces around. This was the conclusion of a terrifying military campaign. Countless corpses of strong practitioners lay at the feet of this middle-aged man, floating in a sea of blood overflowing to the sky. The white bones were dyed red by blood and reflected an abnormal color. Countless lost souls that had died under the sword were captured by the messengers of deaths and dragged to the depths of gloom. In there, a devil god with 2 long horns that had 9 bends was currently holding a banquet to celebrate the souls of all the strong practitioners becoming his guests and food. This was the information hidden in the blank spaces of this painting. In the courtyard, the expert of Celestial Being Realm was stunned when he saw this painting and the person in it. He saw his own head sliding from his neck and felt everything becoming incredibly slow as he fell into a darkness that had no light. He felt himself sinking downwards endlessly, never reaching the bottom of that darkness. Thump! His head landed on the ground and tumbled 2 rounds. His eyes were still staring wide open. Suddenly, a huge hand stretched over and grabbed his head. There were still 9 people outside the courtyard who stood there with terror on their faces. Only the white-eyebrowed elder, Taoist Qing Shan, was still composed. He was the one who had grabbed the head of the Celestial Being Realm expert. He was also the only great expert of life and death realm among all of them. Taoist Qing Shan looked into the eyes of the expert and let out a deep breath. Superb sword. The other 8 people immediately looked over and asked in trembling voices, "What did Senior Qing Shan discover? Look at his eyes." The 8 people gathered over and saw that there was a sword light in both the left and the right eye of this expert. The sword seemed to have gone straight towards his face, and in the next instant, the life of this expert had ended. Taoist Qing Shan lifted the head and looked towards the main room in which Qin Mu and the rest were sleeping. The sword is from there. What exactly is there? He slowly moved his body and found a good angle. Like this, he saw the flickering light of a candle and a corner of a painting. It's a painting. I can see the corner of the shirt of the person in the painting. Senior Qing Shan, is there a need for such trouble? Won't it be fine just to destroy this entire house and the people inside? A strong practitioner of Celestial Being Realm suddenly made a move, and his sword pellet rose into the air. A pillar-like sword light came out and stabbed towards the house where Qin Mu and the rest were in with a whoosh. That sword pillar was incomparably thick, and everything it passed by was shredded to pieces. This was Spiral Sword Form which Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor had founded. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was not a selfish person. The sword forms he founded were mostly passed down, and there were many sword sects in the martial world that cultivated his sword mastery. The person who had made his move just then was one of the professionals. His understanding of spiral sword form was above that of many others. This move sword was impressive, and if it swept into the main room, it would definitely grind everything there to powder, removing it from existence. No matter if it was Qin Mu, Dutian Devil King, or the Dragon Qilin, all of them would be shredded into pieces. Don't point your murderous intent at that painting. Taoist Qing Shan's expression changed suddenly, and he wanted to stop the other, but it was already too late. The sword pillar seemed to have met a formless barrier, for it stopped in the air before disintegrating inch by inch. It then exploded with a bang. A red mark appeared at the heart of the strong practitioner's brows, and a drop of fresh blood dripped out before he collapsed on the ground. "Be careful, on your guard," Taoist Qing Shan shouted sternly. His aura burst forth and 6 booms rang out from his body. Spirit embryo, 5 elements, 6 directions, 7 stars, celestial being, life and death. His 6 great divine treasures had opened all at once. Around him, the strong practitioners of celestial being realm couldn't maintain their footings, and were forced to move back continuously by his overflowing aura. Whoosh! Behind Daoist Qing Shan, an apparition of a god that had a dragon's head and a human body appeared. It looked like the god had descended with half of his body still in the void while the other half was stepping into reality. Daoist Qing Shan grabbed onto a mirror and stared anxiously at Qin Mu and the rest who were still sleeping in the main room before shouting in a hoarse voice. "Aren't you guys going to be on guard? Are you courting disaster?" At this moment, Qin Mu, who was pretending to be asleep in the main room, narrowed his eyes and saw a human figure floating down from the wall behind him. He could see the shadow of a middle-aged man's back which was elongated by the candle's light. This middle-aged man that had walked down from the painting was tall and slim and had a treasure sword on his back. He was very quiet and seemed like a spirit with no corporeal body as he floated towards the courtyard. The figure raised its head to look at the sky and pulled out the sword on its back. The man waved his sword around and sang in a low voice as the sword lights moved while the fishes and dragons danced. "Sword of founding emperor, sea of blood, mountains and rivers exist, vast and obscure heart, looking around left and right, no more people donning the clothes of homeland." Qin Mu didn't dare to move at all, feeling that there were sharp sword chi and sword lights everywhere in this world that was moving to and fro beside him, swimming in time and space. He shut his eyes, but there were still sword lights flashing in front of his eyes, tearing apart the darkness. He heard sword chi which was very rapid and fleeting breaking through the air. He opened his eyes, and there were sword lights crisscrossing everywhere in front of him. Angry shouts came from outside of the courtyard, and a terrifying aftermath suddenly bombarded him. In the dusky night, the other houses of the village flew into the sky, disintegrating and shattering into pieces. Qin Mu's heart thumped wildly. Grandpa Def had bestowed a soul. He had bestowed a soul to village chief in the painting. Suddenly, all of the sound and light vanished, along with the low singing voice. Qin Mu's eyes were half opened, and he could faintly see a figure walking towards him as if it wanted to return to the painting behind him. Suddenly, that figure fell apart and turned into a pool of ink on the ground. Qin Mu was stunned for a moment, then immediately opened his eyes. He took a careful look backward and saw a piece of white paper hanging on the wall. The light from the lamp flickered, while the surroundings were completely silent. Qin Mu let out a deep breath, and Hu Linger opened her eyes and asked in a low voice, "Young master, it's safe now, let's sleep." He then added, "We still need to cross the mountains tomorrow and walk for quite a long time." Hu Ling buried her head down, and Qin Mu also lay down. Looking at the white paper behind the candle's light, he felt tranquility in his heart. The next day, Qin Mu woke up and came to the courtyard. The little village from yesterday had turned into a piece of empty land, with no sign of any of the other houses. Only half of their own courtyard remained, with over half of the walls already collapsed. The east room was mostly gone, while the west room ceiling was missing. Qin Mu washed up and started making breakfast with his wok. Hu Linger adjusted Dutian Devil King's mechanism and ran out with him. While she was out, she cried out non-stop in astonishment. The dragon Qilin woke up groggily and took a look outside. He gave a yawn and licked his claws, using them to wash his face before asking curiously, "Where are we now? Where did the village from yesterday go? Cultmaster, is it time for breakfast? Can you scatter some cumin on my Scarlet Fire Spirit pills today? I would like a change of taste." Qin Mu grabbed some cumin and took out half a bucket of Scarlet Fire Spirit pills, on which he scattered the cumin. The dragon Qilin lowered his head to look at his food before raising his head up in doubt. "It's only half a bucket," Qin Mu said angrily. "You are so fat that you can't even run now. Half a bucket is more than enough." The dragon Qilin said, "My body is still growing. If you dock my food, I won't be able to grow." "Your body is still growing?" Qin Mu blew up and tried to pinch the flesh on the dragon Qilin's belly and discovered that he couldn't do it at all. "Your body isn't growing, so it's your fat that's growing. Try pinching yourself and see if you can pinch a fold out." The dragon Qilin also stretched out his claws to pinch and discovered that he couldn't pinch it as well. My constitution is one that can grow fats even if I drink cool water. Hu Linger ran over and said angrily, "Fatty dragon, you shall drink cool water from today onwards then." The dragon Qilin immediately protected the scarlet fire spirit pills in front of him and smiled apologetically. "Aren't I just scared I will starve and want to eat slightly more? Alright, half a bucket it is, no less, or else I'm really going to become skin and bones." Dutian Devil King walked over when he saw that Qin Mu had finished eating and was taking down the painting, which was now simple white paper. "This painting was painted by your elder?" Qin Mu nodded. Dutian Devil King was silent for a moment, then asked, "The person in the painting is also your elder?" Qin Mu placed the scroll painting into his taotai sack with a nod. Dutian Devil King said, "I'm not afraid of them. However, it's by no means a good way to keep me trapped in this devil god sculpture. So why don't you undo the seal so my consciousness can leave your world and return to Duqian to never step onto this land? How about it?" Qin Mu didn't express his opinion and instead said, "Linger, eat faster so we can continue on our journey." Dutian Devil King's head started to ache. After Hu Linger was full, Qin Mu came forward to help wash the bowls and utensils, then put the cleanly washed bowls and utensils back into taotai sack. He looked at the rations inside and said, "There's enough for us to last till great ruins. Lord Devil King, let's go." Dutian Devil King went after, saying, "I'm not afraid of them. If my true body descended, I would be afraid of nobody." God-broken mountain range stretched over tens of thousands of miles, and when Qin Mu and the rest reached its bottom, they could only see the incomparably precipitous mountain range that was hard to cross for even the nimble apes and flying birds. Qin Mu took out the geographical map of Eternal Peace and carefully searched for something before smiling. "Lonely Mountain Ridge Canyon isn't far from here. Let's go." Just as he was saying that, a line parted from the dark cloud in the sky, and a huge red snake popped its head out, spewing great flames. The heat scattered the cloud layer in all directions, and a brilliant swarm of golden insects flew out in all directions. Some of them went in the direction of the group of 4. "Other people beat the young and comes the old, mine's better, beats the old and comes the young." Qin Mu sighed ruefully in his heart. It was really good to be Heavenly Devil Cult Master. Since Long Jiaonan and the woman from Three Wonders Castle had come here, it meant that the other young experts were around too. If Qin Mu was caught by these people, it would be troublesome. Hu Linger controlled the demon wind and swept away the insects that were flying over, sending them far away. "Young master, aren't these people going home for New Year's? They probably treat killing me as New Year's celebration." Qin Mu shook his head and said, "Other than killing me, they still want to kill the emperor. They definitely can't kill me, but I wonder if they can kill the emperor. After all, the emperor is a much bigger target than me." Hu Linger had handled the situation very well by blowing the insects away. Long Jiaonan and the rest wouldn't be able to find this place and locate Lonely Mountain Ridge Canyon. This place wasn't far from where they were, and Qin Mu started walking towards it. The terrain here was not precipitous like in the other areas. However, there was something different around here. The surroundings were bleak, with no greenery at all. The entire mountain was littered with withered trees, which were black like the ground. This made people associate it with being bad. "What if they kill the emperor?" Hu Linger asked. Qin Mu took the first step into Lonely Mountain Ridge, and Hu Linger immediately followed up by jumping onto the dragon Qilin's back. She then skipped onto its head to look around. "If they killed the emperor and had the crown prince ascend, Imperial Preceptor's reform will be overturned," Qin Mu answered. "Imperial Preceptor will then get rid of the crown prince and change to an obedient emperor. But even if Imperial Preceptor doesn't do that, I will do it. I will also invite Imperial Preceptor to become the 4th cult Heavenly King, since I have reserved this seat for him for quite a long time. However, they will not be able to kill the Emperor, and Imperial Preceptor will not be willing to be the 4th Heavenly King." Withered trees littered the ground, and there were no branches or leaves. The little white fox was pretty nervous as she felt these withered stems were like razor-sharp claws, and the warped trunks were like scary faces. All of them terrified her. "There's blood of a god and a devil here, which tainted this place." Dutian Devil King swatted a few insects flying to him before grabbing a clump of soil and rubbing it. "Strange, this blood is very strange. I can't tell if it belonged to a god or a devil. There are parts of both of them in it." A blood which contained both the blood of a god and the blood of a devil. Interesting. Qinmu asked with curiosity. Lord Devil King, could the blood of a god and a devil have been scattered here at the same time? He had seen the blood of a devil god, which was very powerful. He had entered the darkness of great ruins with village chief back then, and village chief had managed to injure a devil god in the darkness. One drop of blood from that devil god dripped onto the soil, and the greenery in a radius of 300 yards had all withered, becoming much like the situation in Lonely Mountain Ridge. That was just one drop of devil blood. Here, however, the entire Lonely Mountain Ridge Canyon had been tainted, which showed that there was definitely quite a large amount of god and devil's blood spilled here. It's not that. Dutian Devil King shook his head and said, it's the same type of blood. It's just that this kind of blood contains both god and devil attributes at the same time. Your knowledge is still shallow and can't see the difference between the two options. The blood of a god indicates life, while the blood of a devil indicates death. The blood that was spilled on Lonely Mountain Ridge had both the attributes at the same time, with the god attribute hidden under the soil while the devil attribute was above, killing everything that comes out from the ground. These trees are dead, but their roots are not. On the contrary, they are abnormally healthy and strong. Some might even become spirits by relying on the life force of the god's blood. Hu Linger immediately asked, will roots become demons? They will, said Dutian Devil King. They should become a strange organism which grows many tentacles. Even though Lonely Mountain Ridge Canyon had the name of a canyon, its terrain was quite high. Yet when compared to the mountain ranges beside it, it was much lower. This black canyon was winding upwards, and the mountain road wasn't easy to walk on. Heavenly Devil Cult must have gone through a lot of trouble to smuggle goods through here. Once in a while, there would be a black stone tablet on the road which was about a dozen yards high. They contained rune markings, and Qinmu took a while to identify them. It's demon suppression runes from our sacred cult. Linger, don't touch them. You will be sucked in if you activate them. Hu Linger jumped in shock. There are quite a lot of demon suppression stones in Lonely Mountain Ridge, so it seems like Heavenly Saint Cult had spent quite a lot of effort in paving this passage. This also means that there are many demons here which are very terrifying. Qinmu counted the number of demon suppression black stone tablets he had met on the way, and there were as many as 46 of them. This was not even half of the journey, so if the stone tablets could only suppress one demon each, that would make 46 demons this far. However, demon suppression black stone tablets were a dozen yards high, so it was impossible that they were only suppressing one demon each. Based on their size, the number of demons suppressed here should be pretty impressive. They came to the center of the valley and saw a lake there. Snow was everywhere in the mountains, along with cold weather, yet there was actually a lake here, which would make people click their tongues in wonder. There was also an old dried-up tree beside the lake which covered a very wide area. Densely packed stone tablets, which numbered to several hundred pieces, surrounded the tree and the lake entirely. Qinmu and the rest jumped in shock. For so many demon suppression black stone tablets to be here, could there be a few hundred demons being suppressed here? Even though Qingmu was the devil cult master of Heavenly Devil Cult, he didn't know much about this passage in Lonely Mountain Ridge. He didn't know what Heavenly Devil Cult had met here back then. Could it be a demon country? Qinmu muttered. However, why are there so many stone tablets around this ancient tree? It doesn't seem like many demons are being suppressed, but instead this tree and the lake. Just as he said this, he suddenly heard a call for help from the lake. The dragon Qilin was tall, so his gaze went past the black stone tablet when he raised his head. Taking a glance, he said slowly, "There's a woman bathing there." "Help, help!" she cried out again. Hu Linger immediately jumped onto the dragon Qilin's head and looked towards the lake before saying angrily, "Fatty dragon, is that bathing? She's obviously drowning." "It's bathing," the dragon Qilin said slowly. "She's not wearing clothes, so she's naturally bathing. Have you seen anyone drown while being naked?" "Naked?" Dutian Devil King was surprised and delighted and hurriedly climbed to the head of the dragon Qilin to look towards the lake. There was indeed a naked woman drowning in the lake, and he could see her seductive figure struggling in the water. With all the curves, Dutian Devil King got an eyeful and exclaimed in admiration, "This demoness is beautiful. Rascal, come have a look." Qinmu smiled. "There are still pursuers behind, let's go." After he said it, He took a sneaky glance through the gap between the black stone tablets. Young master is an upright gentleman. Hu Linger was full of confidence and praise. The officials outside, help me! The woman in the lake cried out miserably. Quickly push down the stone tablets and save me. I'll then devote my life to you. Qin Mu and the rest took a detour around the lake, and Hu Linger said loudly, Demoness, my young master will not be tricked by you. You should know that my young master is the sacred cult master of Heavenly Saint Cult. Suddenly, the woman became silent, and a sinister voice sounded out. Sacred cult master of Heavenly Saint Cult? Whoosh! The water in the lake that was surrounded by the black stone tablets overflowed into the sky as countless pitch-black roots came rushing up like tentacles. At the end of each one was a naked woman in her prime of youth. They all looked at Qin Mu, and countless ear-piercing shrieks rang out in the air. Heavenly Saint Cult! Heavenly Saint Cult is the one who suppressed me here. They used these black stone tablets to suppress my body, to suppress my legs and my hands. Boom boom! In Lonely Mountain Ridge Canyon, the black stone tablets trembled as a huge body struggled under them, trying to break the seals. Qin Mu jumped in shock. He had seen so many black stone tablets there were in Lonely Mountain Ridge Canyon, and thought they were suppressing countless demons, maybe even a whole country. Never did he think that all these stone tablets were suppressing a single huge demon. The black tablets trembled continuously, and the soil beside them loosened as if they were going to be uprooted. The runes suddenly lighted up, and the stone tablets suddenly became like huge mountains that were incomparably heavy. They pressed down on the demon of Lonely Mountain Ridge, making it unable to move. I want revenge. In the sky above the lake, the faces of the countless women warped and cried out mournfully. I want to kill every single person in your Heavenly Saint Cult. The black stone tablets around the lake lighted up, and the light from the runes shone on the ancient tree. The tentacles above the lake seemed to be dragged down by a weird force, and the women shrieked miserably. They tried to grab around, but they couldn't get hold onto anything and were gradually dragged into the lake. This lake should be the damaged land that received the blood of a god and a devil. That blood was then absorbed by this ancient tree. Dutian Devil King asked in bewilderment, Why does your homeland have so much strange stuff? Qin Mu smiled. My homeland has much stranger things than this. Let us hurry and walk out of Lonely Mountain Ridge before nightfall so we can find a safe place. What a pity! Dutian Devil King smacked his lips and said, That little demoness was quite pretty, much prettier than the women in my Dutian. At this moment, Long Jiaonan and Xiao Yu met up with Scholar Lan Yu, Monk Banshee, and Yuan Shan while looking for traces of Qin Mu. Suddenly, they felt a tremble coming from Lonely Mountain Ridge, and they all looked towards there. Scholar Lan Yu cried out, Heavenly Devil Cult Master went to God Broken Mountain Range? Isn't he afraid of getting shot by the mysterious pearl crossbows? Xiao Yu waved her hand, and countless insects flew in the direction of Lonely Mountain Ridge. Heavenly Devil Cult Master is cunning, so if he went through God Broken Mountain Range, there probably is a way to survive there. My insects will find a path, and we shall follow behind. Everyone hurried towards Lonely Mountain Ridge while the swarm of insects poured forward. While flapping their wings, they came to the lakeside where they could see demon clouds permeating the air and hear never-ending cries of, Heavenly Devil Cult Master. I will kill you. I will definitely kill you and eliminate Heavenly Saint Cult. Everyone looked at each other, and Monk Banshee coughed, then said loudly, Demoness, what grudge do you have with Heavenly Devil Cult Master? A woman in the prime of her youth revealed her naked body on the surface of the lake while crying pitifully. Heavenly Saint Cult has been suppressing me here for a few hundred years. The grudge between him and me is as deep as the ocean, and we cannot live under the same sky. If you can save me, I am willing to devote my life to you. Monk Banshee smiled. I'm a monk, so I don't need you to devote your life to me. You just have to convert to Buddhism and assist me in killing Heavenly Devil Cult Master. Then this little monk will break the seal here and release you. I'm willing to convert to Buddhism, the woman cried out in surprise and delight. Scholar Lan Yu, Yuan Shan, Yui, and the rest frowned as they wanted to advise against it, but Monk Banshee had already pulled out a black stone tablet and thrown it on the ground. Fellow Dao friends, this is a demon that Heavenly Devil Cult has suppressed, and since Heavenly Devil Cult belongs to the Devil Path, the demon they suppressed must be a good demon. Everyone, Help me push down all these demon suppression stones to save this friend. Everyone could only go forward and push down the stone tablets together. Boom! The mountains trembled, and the roots rose up once again. Below the tree, a huge black ball swelled up continuously, becoming bigger and bigger. The black roots squirmed like flood dragons and huge snakes, revealing countless white bones among themselves. Monk Banshee saw these white bones buried under and felt a bone-chilling cold go down his spine. He suddenly had a thought that this demon which Heavenly Devil Cult had suppressed might not be a friend of the same path. On the contrary, it could be an existence that was even more wicked than Heavenly Devil Cult. Quickly run! Long Jiaonan screeched. Everyone hurriedly sprinted away in the direction of great ruins. I'm free, I'm finally free. Countless mournful cries could be heard behind them as black stone tablets trembled before collapsing onto the ground. Thick tentacles tunneled out from the ground, waving non-stop. At the end of each root was a beautiful smiling woman. Heavenly Saint Cult said I had eaten too many humans, so they suppressed me here. Thank you little monk. I can finally eat humans again. Monk Banshee's scalp turned numb. They saw the terrain trembling violently, while they were running and countless rocks flying in all directions. Among the rocks, pitch-black tentacles tunneled out, which were the roots of the lonely mountain ridge root demon. Heavenly Devil Cult had used demon suppression black stone tablets to suppress her roots, while the many black stone tablets around the lake and the ancient tree were to suppress her head. Now that the black stone tablets that were suppressing the head were pushed down by Monk Banshee and the rest, the root demon could once again use her strength, which could be said to be terrifying, causing the mountain ranges to tremble non-stop. She used her strength, and the black stone tablets that were suppressing her roots flew up one after another, shattering under her terrifying power. How does an ordinary root demon have such strength? Monk Banshee cried out. Was this tree demon purposefully placed here by Heavenly Devil Cult to harm people? Suddenly, thick roots swept towards them, and at the front of each one hung a beautiful woman. Trying to leave? You guys saved me and I haven't repaid you guys yet. Why don't all of you stay and become one with me? Qiuyu waved her sleeves and countless insects flew out towards the roots. These insects grew larger in the wind and became 3 yards long by the time they pounced to gnaw on the roots. However, the razor-sharp teeth of these insects shattered into pieces, unable to bite through. Qiuyu jumped in shock when she saw small roots, which then pierced the venomous insects, growing out from the navels of those women hanging on the roots. In an instant, only the shells of the venomous insects were left, while the flesh inside had vanished. The venomous insects I raise can even bite through spirit weapons, yet these roots are tougher than that. Qiuyu cried out. A root came from behind them, and Yuan Shan leaped up while holding a sword pellet over his head. He gave a stab and pierced through one woman before spinning his sword to sever her head. The woman's head fell onto the ground and immediately withered, turning into a black charcoal that was shaped like a head. Meanwhile, the headless woman on the root grew out another head. Yuan Shan was astonished and wanted to slice the root apart when another one stabbed him like lightning. He hurriedly executed his sword pellet, wanting to sever the root that was at his back, but his body suddenly shriveled. His flesh vanished in an instant, so only his skin was left. The other people had originally wanted to save him, but when they saw what had happened, they immediately rushed out of the canyon. Behind them, there were countless black-colored tentacles waving about and stabbing into the 2 mountains on their sides, pulling the true body out from the ground. That true body was a behemoth that was like a ball of thread with countless roots hanging down. The movement of this behemoth was too great, which activated the mysterious pearl crossbows that were on both sides of the mountain. The mysterious pearl crossbows detected the life force of this demon, and shot at it automatically. 2 incomparably thick arrow lights flew through the sky, and hit the lonely mountain ridge root demon, which was like a big black ball. The demon cried out miserably as if there were countless voices overlapping each other, causing an avalanche around the mountains. Long Jiaonan and the rest were almost caught by the tentacles when luckily the mysterious pearl crossbows inflicted pain to the demon, which made it retract its tentacles, allowing them to escape. These mysterious pearl crossbows can even kill celestial beings, so they can definitely kill this demon. Everyone let out a sigh of relief, then suddenly saw the lonely mountain ridge root demon waving her tentacles to sweep at the mysterious pearl crossbows up the mountains. With a loud bang, one of them was shattered into pieces, and a huge bronze arm rolled off from the top of a mountain. Next, the mysterious pearl crossbow on the other mountain was also shattered. The faces of Long Jiaonan and the rest turned ashen. They immediately jumped onto the back of the red snake Long Jiaonan had raised and slithered forward frantically. When they finally escaped Lonely Mountain Ridge, they took a look back. Countless roots that were like black pythons were climbing towards them, and a dull rolling sound could be heard coming from the canyon. It was obvious that the terrifying root demon was too heavy and was unable to fly. It could only rely on her roots to climb the cliff, pushing herself forward. This demon was too huge, so when she was moving, her body crashed repeatedly into the two mountains beside her, shaking them. Heavenly Devil Cult is truly sinful, to raise such a huge demon to harm people. It was hard to say if Monk Banshee was trembling from fury or fear when he said angrily, "How many people have they killed to be able to raise a demon to this level? I hate how my abilities are too weak to subdue it." Everyone knew it was because he felt guilty for releasing this demon that he pushed all the blame to Heavenly Devil Cult. They didn't call him out on it though and said to one after another, "It's lucky that this demon has been lured by us to Great Ruins and didn't go to kill the people of Eternal Peace. The people in Great Ruins are all abandoned people and villains that have nowhere else to go. This demon creating havoc in Great Ruins could also be considered subduing devils and protecting the Tao." Monk Banshee's expression softened and he said, "Heavenly Devil Cult Master must have purposefully made a din to lure us into the valley so he could borrow the power of this demon to harm us. But heaven helps the worthy, so we have managed to escape with our lives. And he must be disappointed, right?" Just as he said that, the body of the Lonely Mountain Ridge root demon squeezed out of the canyon and rolled down the slope, her tentacles flailing non-stop. Everyone immediately rose into the air and Scholar Lan Yu said solemnly, "This demon can't fly so everyone can be at ease." At this moment a bird cry sounded out, and sharp wind bombarded the youth's face. A huge golden-winged bird flew towards him like lightning, and its two claws grasped onto his shoulders, lifting him away. Scholar Lan Yu felt pain on his shoulders. His left and right shoulder blades were pierced by the bird's claws. At that moment, he was about to execute a divine art to save himself, but the huge golden-winged bird lowered its head to peck at him. His skull was shattered into pieces as the bird carried his headless body into the depths of a forest. The group had arrived at Great Ruins, which was a savage land without law. The strange beasts here didn't care if one was a disciple from a reputable sect or not. In the eyes of these creatures, there was only food and not food. Qiuyu said in a panic, "Don't fly in the sky, go toward the ground." Everyone immediately landed on the ground, and behind them, the Lonely Mountain Ridge root demon came chasing over. As they ran for their lives, they passed by a lake, and a huge fish suddenly jumped. It bit onto a young expert, killing them instantly before dragging them into the water. The Lonely Mountain Ridge root demon came rolling over, and countless roots pierced the lake. The weird fish inside immediately jumped out of the water and followed behind Qiuyu and the rest. That fish actually ran like it was flying and soon surpassed everyone, stunning them. After sprinting for over 10 miles to avoid the slaughter of the Lonely Mountain Ridge root demon behind them, the group saw rows of trees that were uprooted. "Devil King, Great Ruins are very dangerous, so if you have nothing to do, don't fly in the sky." Far away, Qin Mu was sitting on the dragon Chilant's back and seemed very relaxed. "We have our own unique rules in Great Ruins. You can fly in the sky if you want, but you must fly low and not be too flamboyant. If you think you are capable enough, you can fly slightly higher, but if the territorial strange beasts are not happy, they will come over and eat you." Dutian Devil King sneered. "Isn't this just the strong preying on the weak? I understand this rule. My Dutian functions under the same rule. And also, don't go out when it's dark." Qin Mu had a grim expression. "Unless you have the ability of a god or a devil, don't ever go into the darkness. It will be just a road to death." Dutian Devil King chuckled. "What's so scary about the dark? My Dutian is already broken to the point where everything is complete darkness. There's light only in some place, and it's where life can still thrive. In the darkness, I'm like a fish in the water. I'll show you how to frolic around at night." Hu Linger rolled her eyes. In the eyes of the little fox, Dutian Devil King was already dead. Qin Mu continued, "There's no law in our Great Ruins, so no matter who we meet, we must be polite. If we aren't polite and offended someone, it'll be easy for us to be gotten rid of. The more lawless a place is, the more polite people there are. Also, there are some terrifying gods and devils in great ruins. Some of them are sealed, some of them are suppressed, and some of them live luxuriously, so don't run around for nothing. Dutian Devil King jumped in shock. There are still gods and devils in this world? Quite a number of them. I've met a few before, Qinmu said. As long as you grasp the rules of Great Ruins, it's actually a much safer place than Eternal Peace Empire. You can ask Linger if you don't believe me. Dutian Devil King took a look at Hu Linger, and she nodded repeatedly with deep sentiments. Eternal Peace is indeed much more dangerous than Great Ruins. The reason young master came out was to go to Eternal Peace Empire for experience. There's no experience for us in Great Ruins, so you can see how dangerous Eternal Peace Empire is. Suddenly, an earth-shattering boom came from behind them, and Qinmu turned his head back to have a look. There he saw countless tentacles flailing in the sky. A black behemoth with a mountain-like body was currently rushing over to him. On those tentacles hung naked women who were smiling weirdly. Why is the demoness of Lonely Mountain Ridge released? Who was so dumb? Qinmu turned a cold shudder to the women hanging from the Lonely Mountain Ridge root demon, who had already seen him and were rushing over excitedly. Countless strange beasts were also running over in their direction. This demon is really courting death, it's really easy to die by. Rushing headlong in Great Ruins. Qinmu shook his head. Even village chief wouldn't dare to be so reckless. Just as he was saying that, the ground suddenly trembled violently, and a huge palm which was covered in golden fur stretched out from underground. Flames blazed around the palm which slammed down forcefully against Lonely Mountain Ridge root demon. The root demon flew away like a black ball which got smacked, disappearing into the distance. The strange beasts that were escaping for their lives stopped and turned back to have a look. All of them then returned back to their own territories. Dutian Devil King was stunned by the sight, unable to say a word. Qinmu consoled him. It's fine, it's fine. Great ruins are like this. There are often weird things hidden around, but everything will be fine if you enter a temple to offer incense and pay respect to the gods. I reckon that demoness had accidentally come into contact with some ruins and provoked the god there. Dutian Devil King's body was stiff, and he only let out a shaky breath after some time. It's too dangerous over here. I want to return to Dutian. The Devil King suddenly became agitated and broken pieces of components spewed out from his four mouths on his four faces. How is your goddamn world a secular world? There are demons and ghosts everywhere. I won't invade your world anymore, okay? Let me go, I want to go home. Hu Linger persuaded him. Our great ruins are really safe, much safer than Eternal Peace Empire. You will definitely be fine if you follow young master. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor and his wife had come to Little Jade Capital in the sky a dozen or so days ago. This city in the sky was like a paradise, with sceneries that were rarely seen in the mortal world. Has Imperial Preceptor gotten accustomed to here? A white-robed elder asked with a smile after coming over. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor said solemnly, Lit Jade Capital lives up to its name. The sceneries here are extraordinary, which made me enjoy myself so much that I forgot to go home. Even though this place is good, it's far from the human world. My ambition isn't here, and I will still have to leave. May Hermit Qinyu please forgive me. That old Hermit Qinyu smiled. There's no need for Imperial Preceptor to be in a hurry. This hermit has invited Imperial Preceptor as a guest yet. I haven't told you about the origins of Little Jade Capital. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor said with curiosity. I'd like to hear the details. Hermit Qinyu led the way as he brought Imperial Preceptor and his wife up a rainbow bridge. This structure was sculpted out from 7-colored jade which stretched across the sky. So standing on the bridge was like standing on a rainbow. When at the center of the bridge, the scenery they could see from up there was different from what they could see from below. They could see that the mountains of Little Jade Capital were arranged into a natural formation in the sky, while the palaces on the mountains were where the immortals lived. Little Jade Capital City's origins are even more ancient than Imperial Preceptor must have imagined. Hermit Qinyu smiled. The history here can be traced all the way back to the Founding Emperor period. Founding Emperor? Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor had indeed not heard of Founding Emperor before and asked curiously, which country had the Founding Emperor period? Eternal Peace Empire never had an emperor that was called Founding Emperor. Founding Emperor isn't from Eternal Peace. He was from a land which was called Founding Emperor Empire, Hermit Qingyu said. Imperial Preceptor should know that the Founding Emperor Empire is the current Great Ruins. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's body trembled slightly as he let out a shaky breath. Great Ruins. Hermit Qingyu led them across the bridge, and towards a mountain of immortals floating in the sky. Founding Emperor Era is what the Taoism calls it, while Buddhism refers to it as Emptiness Era. Formation, existence, destruction, and emptiness, so Emptiness Era is the fourth one. Now that Eternal Peace is rising, we Little Jade Capital refer to the current time as Eternal Peace Era. During Founding Emperor Era, Great Ruins were prosperous. We Little Jade Capital refer to the huge calamity that wiped out that place as Founding Emperor Calamity. Before Founding Emperor Calamity, there was also 3 calamities. The gaze of Imperial Preceptor's wife flickered. Elder said that the current time is referred to as Eternal Peace Era, so if Eternal Peace Empire is wiped out, are you going to refer to it as Eternal Peace Calamity? Madam is wise. Hermit Qingyu smiled and pointed far away. There was a jade mountain floating in the sky, and a few Taoists were currently building a palace there. That palace over there is to store the history of Eternal Peace Era. When Eternal Peace Empire is wiped out, we can tidy up the coming and goings of Eternal Peace Calamity, leaving them as references for our future generations. Imperial Preceptor's wife couldn't resist asking, Elder, what kind of place is Little Jade Capital? Is it good or evil? What intentions do you have for us, husband and wife? We have been here for quite a few days, and the Elder had let us tour around as much as we wished. Shouldn't it be time for you to say the true intention of Little Jade Capital? We Little Jade Capital have no intentions. We just want to observe Imperial Preceptor, to observe the reform, and record the things that we think will be useful for our future generations. Hermit Qingyu smiled. We call ourselves immortals and not gods because we don't want to interfere with how the world works. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor said, Immortals and gods, how are they different? Immortals are human, gods aren't. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor pondered it for a moment, then said, What you mean is that humans can't become gods, only immortals? Hermit Qingyu smiled. Imperial Preceptor, having cultivated to Divine Bridge Realm. What do you see when you stand on the Divine Bridge? Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor didn't say a word. Divine Bridge Realm was the 7th realm after breaking the wall of Divine Bridge Divine Treasure, which was also the highest realm. Divine Bridge Divine Treasure is a bridge which leads to the God realm. However, it is broken within everyone, so no one is able to reach the other shore. It isn't different for Imperial Preceptor, am I right? Hermit Qingyu continued. It's no different for the immortals of Little Jade Capital. We had seen countless divine treasures, and all the divine bridges were broken. Being unable to reach the other shore means that we can't become gods. Actually, based on our cultivation, we could be on par with the gods, yet the realm is broken. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor nodded. I had discovered this many years ago and was distressed over this once. I had searched many ancient books, yet I couldn't find a way to solve it. Does Little Jade Capital have records of the broken bridge being reconnected? We have. Hermit Qingyu led them to the palace up the Jade Mountain and said, However, even Little Jade Capital isn't capable of doing it. Because we couldn't become gods, we decided to become immortals. This is why we, the old and useless, have chosen to stay in Little Jade Capital. Even though we call ourselves immortals, once our allocated lifespans are up, our souls will return to the Yellow Springs. We aren't able to escape death. We are just seeking peace. Imperial Preceptor, madam, over here. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor and his wife followed him and walked into the palace. It was a place, but even though it had the faint air of the home of immortals, it was very cold and cheerless, with not a figure to be seen. Little Jade Capital was a cold and cheerless place like this. Hermit Qingyu brought them through the long hallway and walked to the circular door, leading them into the depths of the palace. During Founding Emperor period, there was indeed a bunch of people who had connected their broken bridges. They had built a glorious divine dynasty which by now has turned into dust and no longer exists. The location of this divine dynasty is the great ruins of today. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was slightly excited. There have been people who connected the bridge? In that case, did they become gods? Hermit Qingyu nodded and smiled slightly. However, there are very few of these people now, and they are known as the people abandoned by gods. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was stunned. Those abandoned people in great ruins? No. Almost no one has a complete divine bridge, divine treasure among the abandoned people of great ruins. The immortals of our little jade capital had gone to check before. Hermit Qingyu pushed open a door and brought them inside. Eternal Peace Empire had received a prophecy before, am I right? They were told to restrict the abandoned people of great ruins from walking out of great ruins. Actually, what the oracle wanted you to guard against was not those abandoned people of great ruins, but the abandoned people from Carefree Village that are staying in great ruins. Their divine bridges are complete, and what the gods are guarding against are them. Rows of bookshelves were in front of them, and they were with thick ancient books that contained the history of founding emperor era which the immortals of Little Jade Capital had recorded down. Imperial Preceptor just needs to read all these ancient books once, and you will know what had happened during founding emperor era and founding emperor calamity. Hermit Qingyu bowed, paying his respects since he planned to retreat from this library. If Imperial Preceptor wants to continue walking down this path he has set, I'm afraid founding Emperor era's history will become Eternal Peace Empire's history as well. Whatever founding Emperor era faced, Eternal Peace era will face as well. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor returned the bow and asked, Wanderer Zhen from your little jade capital died under my hands, so why is Dao brother still letting me come here? Our little jade capital does not interfere with worldly affairs and only records them. Once Wanderer Zhen left the mountain, he was no longer an immortal of Little Jade Capital. His life and death were no longer related to us. Hermit Qingyu said while walking out, both of you husband and wife are immortals of our Little Jade Capital while you are here, but when you leave you will no longer be related to us. A saint appears every 500 years, and we Little Jade Capital are interested in observing the saint of this current dynasty, to see if he can do what the saints of the past could not. Weird rules. The eyes of Imperial Preceptor's wife shifted and landed on the ancient scrolls. Husband, there are some problems with Little Jade Capital's origin. I think they're the descendants of founding Emperor Empire. That is possible. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor sat down and picked up a book. They have no ill intentions, so there's no need to guess their goals. I want to see the history of founding Emperor since the current times is a reflection of the past. In the great ruins, a certain devil was speaking. I just wanted to find a lowly world for my people to settle in, to find a place for them to live and reproduce. I don't want to wage a war on your world. Dutian Devil King had a blank gaze as he muttered. Our Dutian is at its death door, so if we fight with you guys, we are really going to go extinct. I have to take responsibility for my race. Let me return. I have to find another lowly world. Let me return. Hu Linger looked at Qin Mu and asked in a low voice, Young master, should we let him return? He looks pretty pitiful. How do I know if he really plans to return or if it's a lie? Qin Mu shook his head. He is just a consciousness while his true body is still in Dutian. He can continue to search for another world with that, so there's no need for this consciousness to return to Dutian. If he doesn't return and instead hides somewhere to summon his true body, won't I be guilty? You can't believe a word this fellow says. If you believe him, you'll lose instantly. Border Dragon City is right in front of us, and it's only 1,000 miles away from disabled elderly village. Border Dragon City was already in their sight, so Qin Mu was finally at ease. He had finally reached his own territory. Young master. Young master has returned? Young master, how is Eternal Peace Empire compared to our great ruins? Qin Mu brought the Dragon Qilin into Border Dragon City, and many store owners on the way waved towards him. He smiled and returned their greetings. Eternal Peace Empire is much more chaotic than our great ruins. Rebellions happen every day, and wars are waged constantly. It's not a good place. That's right, there were many immigrants who had escaped to great ruins. They all said they were running from war and disasters. It's good young master is back. Home is the safest after all. Qin Mu came to the City Lord's manor and asked, Has the City Lord returned? City Lord had come back a few days ago before leaving once more. Does young master want to stay? Little one will go and prepare a banquet to hold a welcoming reception. There's no need, Qin Mu said. New Year is coming. I have to return to the village first. Border Dragon City was his and Granny C's property since some time ago due to most of the people here being people of Heavenly Devil Cult. The only difference from outside was that the followers of Heavenly Devil Cult outside referred to Qinmu as Cult Master Sacred Teacher, while followers in Border Dragon City referred to him as Young Master. The owner of this city was Granny C, after all, and Qinmu was the child she had raised, so it was natural he was called Young Master. Qinmu continued on the journey home. The distance of 1,000 miles was very short, and with the foot power of the dragon Qilin, they could reach disabled elderly village in half a day. The dragon Qilin stepped on the river surface and moved upstream. The sunlight of the winter sun provided warmth as it shone down, and it was not chilly like in Eternal Peace Empire. Qinmu remembered how he had broken the ice tide with Xianqinger last year. Right then, he saw Xianqinger smoking fish with the villagers. By rubbing salt on the huge fish hanging under the tree by the river and using moist firewood to smoke them, the smoky flavor would seep into the meat. The people of this village had caught many huge fish that were taller than a human, and they hung on the tree. The flesh of these fish was bright and shiny. The villagers rarely went out to hunt during New Year's, so they could only rely on these catches to survive through this winter. Qinmu stopped the dragon Qilin, and the little girl with 3 braids blinked her bright and beautiful eyes at him. The one that herds cows, you're returning home in glory? Is outside fun? Qinmu smiled. It's okay, I'm getting chased by people everywhere I go. Didn't the monks of Little Thunderclap Monastery come to find you? Pui Pui, go and touch wood. The monks of Little Thunderclap Monastery have not found their way here yet. Xianqinger was curious though. What bad things have you done? Why are people chasing after you so much? I guess it's because I'm too outstanding? Qinmu raised his head and pondered it. He felt that what he said was definitely correct. I'm too outstanding, so people are jealous of me and chase everywhere I go. He waved his hands to bid goodbye, and Xianqinger immediately said, I'll go play with you when I'm free. Don't let your elders kill me. Okay. When the sun started to set in the west, Qinmu finally reached Disabled Elderly Village. Just as he had entered it, he saw over a dozen hen dragons that were taller than a human surrounding him with unpleasant looks. At their head was that old hen which became agitated when she saw Qinmu and pointed her wings at him while clucking non-stop to the other hen dragons. It was as if she was telling them that this brat was an egg thief. I merely went outside for half a year, and now there are so many hen dragons in the village. Qinmu seemed to have met his greatest foes and shouted out, Times have changed. I'm now the Cult Master Sacred Teacher of Heavenly Saint Cult. Even if you hens outnumber me, I'm not afraid at all. Cluck! 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 The flock of hen dragons swarmed forward and drowned him out. The feathers of these hen dragons were like swords, and they spewed fire like dragons. With sharp claws which could split stone and metal, they were incomparably fierce. Hu Linger saw this situation and immediately said, Young Master, I shall go home first to have a look. When she had said it, she disappeared like a wisp of smoke. After a moment, Qinmu forced back the flock of hens while panting heavily. His face was covered in blood, and his hair was all messed up with chicken feathers stuck in it. In front of him, the head of the hen dragons brought the flock to walk away with their heads held high as they patrolled the village. Dutian Devil King laughed as he rejoiced in Qinmu's misfortune. Rascal, you can't even beat a flock of hens. Qinmu pulled out the chicken feathers from his hair. And you're someone who lost to a fellow who can't even defeat a flock of hens. Granny Village Chief, I'm back. Why didn't any of you come to save me when you saw me getting bullied by a flock of hens? And why is no one here? Qinmu walked around the village surprised. Village Chief and Apothecary's rooms were empty, and the other people of the village had not returned either. Qinmu could only find a few slips of paper which he opened up. The first slip wrote that Village Chief, Apothecary, and Devil Cult Patriarch were going to search for Carefree Village. If anyone came back, they should first help Apothecary feed his insects. The second slip was in Butcher's handwriting which said that Village Chief and the rest had yet to return, so he was worried about their safety, so blind, and he was going to search for them. The third slip was left behind by Mute, and it said that Blind and Butcher had not returned as well, so he was going to find them. The fourth slip was left behind by Cripple and Old Ma, saying that Village Chief and the rest might have met with danger. They could move fast, so they had gone out to find them. The fifth slip was left behind by Granny C, which said that the old geezers were always causing trouble. She had left to find them and told Qin to not wander off. Granny and the rest are really worrisome. Qin shook his head and placed his luggage down. He went to pluck a few leaves from the herb garden outside the village, then opened the pots in front of Apothecary's door and placed the leaves inside them. In the pots, the starving insects immediately snatched the food. Qin then walked into Apothecary's room and found a few spirit pills which he shattered and scattered into other pots. He then washed his hands to cook dinner. These broken pots. Dutian Devil King saw the broken pots which kept the little insects and was greatly shocked. His gaze then landed on the water cauldron in front of the smithy and was shocked again. This huge water cauldron, that rake, that pot, and all the other treasures strewn everywhere. Lord Devil King, stop wandering around, you have more arms, so come and help me cook a few dishes. Qin summoned him over. When the last of the sun rays disappeared, darkness came pouring over from the west and surged towards the east like a huge flood, swallowing all the mountain ranges on its way and drowning out great ruins. Qin was long used to this sight and didn't pay any attention to it as he served the dishes with an apron around his waist. However, Dutian Devil King was seeing such a terrifying sight for the first time. So he was dumbfounded and couldn't say a word. Just before the darkness was about to drown disabled elderly village, a lean elder walked in with a book basket on his back. The darkness swept over right at that moment and whooshed towards the east around disabled elderly village. Grandpa Def. Qin was surprised and delighted. He immediately put down his bowl and chopsticks to welcome him. Def's clothing was old and tattered, which made it evident that he had not lived well outside. He placed down his book basket and asked, "Is there food? I've been starving for a few days." "Food is just ready." Qin immediately washed another set of bowl and chopsticks. Def sat down and gorged himself, taking a breath after eating 4 to 5 bowls of food continuously. Qin poured another bowl of soup for him and asked in bewilderment, "Grandpa Def, where have you been these days?" The corners of Def's eyes twitched and he grumbled, "Eternal peace. I went to find Mute, but I couldn't do it, and I used up all my travel expenses so I could only sell my paintings." The elder's voice was pained when he spoke. "The people of today have sadly degenerated. Degenerated. I actually didn't manage to sell even one painting. When I was extremely starving, I met old woman C who spared me some cash, even if she mocked me for a long time. That's right, don't speak about this to Apothecary. That guy always laughs at me for not earning as fast as he can by selling medicine." Dutian Devil King stared wide-eyed. This old geezer was a top-notch expert, so could he be the painting expert who had painted that sword god? This kind of great expert had actually come close to starving to death? Couldn't he have gotten money by force if he didn't have any? Qin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Grandpa Def, now that the world is not peaceful, who would buy paintings for pleasure? If you lack money next time, you can sell them to Imperial Preceptor's manor, since Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor will definitely be willing to spend a huge sum to buy them." Def shook his head. "I eliminated several thousands of Eternal Peace Empire soldiers, so if I went to his house to sell my paintings, he would definitely take me down. I can't win against him." Qin beamed. "You can find me in Imperial College, all I have is money. I can buy all of the paintings you have painted. Are there any left in Grandpa Def's book basket? You can sell them to me, I'll pay you now." "I've burned them all," Def said nonchalantly. "Where are the others? Have they not returned?" "Burned." Qin felt pained. If Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was here, he would definitely puke 3 liters of blood up. He took out the slips of paper Apothecary and the rest had left behind, and Def read through them before saying, "Their handwritings are really ugly. I'll have a good night's sleep tonight and go find them tomorrow." "Who is he?" Only now did he notice Dutian Devil King, and the other said proudly, "I'm the master of Dutian, the ruler of Dutian. There's no need for you to pay respect to me. He's really ugly." Def got up and returned to his room to sleep. "I'm the Lord Devil King of Dutian." Dutian Devil King retorted angrily. Qin said with good intentions, "Devil King, Grandpa Def can't hear." "Bullshit. He was able to hear you just now." Qin explained, "Sometimes he can hear, sometimes he can't." Dutian Devil King was speechless from anger. Qin Mu cleaned up the bowls and chopsticks before getting ready for bed. Devil King, don't wander about at night. The darkness is very dangerous. Dutian Devil King said yes repeatedly and thought to himself, since the rascal doesn't dare to enter the darkness, now is the best time for me to leave. I just need to enter the darkness and I'll be able to shake him off. Then I'll be able to host the sacrificial ceremony to summon my true body. Not long later, Qin Mu fell asleep, and the snoring could be heard from his room. Dutian Devil King tiptoed toward the outside. The stone statues in the four corners of the village were giving off a faint glow, so the surroundings weren't too dim. However, the places which the light from the stone statue couldn't shine on were pitch black and nothing could be seen in them. Dutian Devil King carefully came to the village entrance and hesitated for a moment. He stretched out a finger into the darkness and heard nibbling sounds. Pulling his palm back, he couldn't help being stunned. His finger had already vanished, having been eaten by something in the darkness. Dutian Devil King sized up his wound, and his heart trembled slightly. He probed, "Gangnyo di he, who is in the darkness?" Silent came from the darkness. After a while, a sinister-sounding voice answered, "Apu Gawanai Hen, who are you yourself?" Dutian Devil King's spirit jolted, and he was about to say something when a voice spoke behind him. "What are you doing? Why are you speaking the devil language?" Dutian Devil King saw Deaf, who had appeared behind him at some point in time, and his heart tightened. The ears of this Deaf are so sensitive. Wait, isn't he a deaf person? Deaf yawned and raised his brush to write a fixed word on his body before going back to sleep. Dutian Devil King couldn't move at all. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't make a sound either. The next morning, Qin Mu woke up early to prepare breakfast. The dragon Qilan brought a face basin and placed it in front of Qin Mu before sitting down to wait for his food. Deaf ate to his fill. "Mu or I shall go out to search for village chief and the rest to come back for New Year's, while you and your big dog shall stay here to look after the village." Qin Mu gave a sound of acknowledgement. The dragon Qilan ate the scarlet fire spirit pills while speaking in a low and muffled voice. "I'm not a big dog. I'm an auspicious beast that's half dragon and half Qilan." Deaf didn't hear him and walked out of the village. He raised his brush and painted a dragon in the sky, then rode into the sky. Dutian Devil King was still standing by the entrance, unable to move. Qin Mu put away the bowls and chopsticks while thinking to himself, "I wonder how Devil Ape that big fella is doing these days. I should bring some presents to him." He saw Dutian Devil King and gave a smile before saying softly, "Gangnadita hey?" Dutian Devil King's heart was slightly shaken. This brat also knew? Qin Mu made the dragon Qilan guard the village while he headed towards Doom Suppression Palace. Before he could walk far, he heard one of the many names of Buddha. "Amiba, Heavenly Devil Cult Master. Fancy meeting you here by sheer luck when one has searched far and wide for you. Never would I have thought this little monk will meet Cult Master here." A monk in ragged clothes appeared in front of him. They were both astonished to have met each other. Qin Mu immediately recognized this monk as the one that had attacked his treasure ship in Eternal Peace Empire. He had used Junior Protector Sword to injure his leg, but he could still sprint like flying. "How do I address you, monk?" Qin Mu smiled and looked around. When he didn't discover Long Jiaonan and the rest, he let out a sigh of relief. This monk had clearly been chased by Lonely Mountain Ridgeroot Demon, and met with all kinds of unfortunate events in Great Ruins, one of which was getting separated from Long Jiaonan and the rest. With him having escaped in a panic, they had met up here by coincidence. Little monk's name in religion is Ban Chi. Monk Ban Chi raised his head at the sky, and 2 trails of tears rolled down his cheeks as he sighed ruefully. "My Buddha of compassion, the virtuous achievements of little monk can finally come to their successful conclusion. Heavenly Devil Cult Master, you have done too much evil, so let this little monk send you on your way." Qin Mu said solemnly, "Monk, you said I have done too much evil. Please name one evil I have done to let me accept my death wholeheartedly." Monk Ban Chi had an awe-inspiring murderous intent as he rushed over with his Buddha rays shining brilliantly. "You are the Heavenly Devil Cult Master, and that's the greatest evil you've done. If there's a life to come for you, reincarnate to become a good person."